You know, darkness really has fallen across the land here. It's very dark tonight. It won't be dark for you necessarily in America because it's just gone 3 o'clock Eastern time, but it's pretty dark here. And of course, it's not just darkness of a meteorological type. This is a very dark nation now. Anyway, we don't really care about that. Welcome to the show. Hope you've had a cracking week. This is Paul English Live, episode 110. Here we go. Lots of fun things happening here in England. I can't see them though, it's so dark and rainy and gloomy. Well, maybe we'll just talk about the weather all night tonight. We usually do. My computer's been playing up a bit, you know. Yeah, did you just get a little jump there? Just got a little jump. I don't know what it is. I think it's groaning. I'm running one of those dreadful Windows machines, and I think I'm one of the people that it's targeting. I've got to move to Windows 11. Are you in a similar position, everybody, or many of you? Yes, it's dreadful, isn't it? Oh, I don't like all that kind of stuff. Grinding away, really looking at Linux and things like that. That's going to take forever because I can't be bothered to do it, even though I used to run it about 10 years ago. Anyway, hope you've all had a cracking week. We've got an amazing show lined up for you tonight, as long as I don't keep choking all the time. We might have an amazing show. We never really know, actually. It's always jolly good. Anyway, we've got a guest rocking up at some point during the course of things. Nathan Lucius is due to be with us. I think he was quite keen to get here. I did send him a message saying, you just need to lay off because me and Eric have got to talk a bit of horse shit to start off with. Speaking of which... Well, we do, don't we?
Nothing like a bit of horse shit, you know.
It's traditional around here that we have to
yes.
kick it off with kick the ball, the verbal football around a bit. How's your week been, Eric? How have you been doing?
Mustn't grumble. I got myself a good bargain, though. I bought myself a flasher coat, commonly known as a trench coat, and it has full instructions inside. It says, warning, says, do not flash in the winter, just jump out from a bush and describe yourself. So there we go. No, it doesn't actually. No, joking aside, I got myself an American Army trench coat.
Yeah.
And it's brand new for £39.99. Not bad, eh? And it's gabardine and 100% wool. And I'm absolutely delighted because it doesn't look like an army surplus one. It just looks like an ordinary trench coat. Put it on, it's like putting a radiator on. It's really warm. Beautiful.
Where, did you get it from an actual physical shop? Did you go into a shop and buy it?
No, I bought it on eBay. But
that's all right.
No,
if it fits,
yeah.
Does it fit you? I mean,
it fits me perfectly.
Does it?
Like a glove. It
Great.
really fits perfectly, and I think it's World War II, Korean War, or something like that. But it does look out of place. I mean, it's just an ordinary trench coat, but when you look at it, because I'm going for wool and cotton, I'm trying to do away with all these synthetic fibres.
Yeah.
And you notice a difference.
You've disappeared. Where have you gone?
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Oh, that's
Hang
good.
on, just have a look. Yeah,
no, you're all right.
Yes.
Synthetic fibres. I was looking at trousers today online. How about that? Someone's just wittily written in. How about this? They said, aren't there statistics on how important the first few minutes of a podcast are to retaining listenership? There probably is.
Yes.
Forager. Yeah, there probably is. Well, we've blown that one, haven't we? I'm sorry that we didn't
certainly
retain
have,
you
yes.
beyond 2 or 3 minutes. What a bugger. Damn.
Oh, well, That's life, isn't it?
You spend all week toiling over a hot computer trying to get everything ready, and then you cock it up right at the beginning. A quick shout out anyway to everybody on WBN. Hi, good afternoon to all you American listeners and everybody in the UK there. Although you can't get WBN directly in the UK due to IP banning and all this kind of stuff, which is very intriguing. And shout out to everybody in YouTube and Rumble chats and on Radio Soapbox and elsewhere, Eurofoot Radio and this, that and the other. So welcome to this week's show. I was looking at trousers anyway, after we've messed up the start. Wide trousers today I was looking at, but online it's not the same as actually touching them with your bare hands to see whether they fit and everything. And I was... I don't know what centimetres are to this day. Do you know what a centimetre is? I haven't a clue what it is, really.
I think it's about as long as a piece of string, actually. So that'd be about a centimetre, I think. So you just find a piece of string and say, yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So when they say 94 centimetres, I'm going, what on earth? I have to buy them for my waist, 32. No, not really. When I was 16. No, I'm down to 36 now, which I'm quite pleased about waist size. Anyway, yeah, it's not too bad for a fat lad.
Not bad.
And anyway, 95 centimeters, something was 37 inches. I don't know, but I was looking for 1950s style trousers. And you can actually still buy them that were made in the 1950s. But I'm thinking, 75 years old for a pair of kegs. I don't think so.
Yes.
I don't think so. I mean, I'm keen, but I'm not that. I'm not that keen. You'd be sharing them with all the creatures that had inhabited the microfilaments and all this, wouldn't you? It's just a bit worrying.
Yes.
Really. Yeah.
Especially if the original owner had running sores or something rather embarrassing,
I think it's funny you should mention that, Eric, because I think there was a subdivision. When you choose which type, I think there was one previously owned by owners with running sores. I think you could actually select that from the drop-down list. 10% discount.
10% discount, yes. And if you start scratching is the sort of NHS number, that sort of thing, Yeah. But no, I noticed in the shops today, because I do sometimes, my servants had a day off, so I had to go and believe that bullshit, believe anything. I had to do my shopping. And it's devil worshipping all around the shops now, isn't it? It's Halloween, a day that when I was a kid, it was just a day like any other day. Oh, it's Halloween, so what? That was it.
I guess maybe we could touch more. I don't mind talking a bit about it now, but next Thursday, obviously, is the 30th, which is still not Halloween, is it? Or which will be, but it's the nearest this show is going to get to it as being close on the mark. We have a couple of houses around here that go crazy at Christmas, with all the lights and all that kind of stuff. It's not a bad contribution, even though it's a bit naff in some regards, and I'm sort of indifferent to it. But they really do. I don't know where they get all their money from, but they obviously spend it a lot on all these lights. But in actuality, they also go crazy for Halloween now. And I went past this one house Tuesday, I think it was, on my little walkabout, my gadabout. And it's just tons of skeletons all over the house.
That's right.
Life-size skeletons. People are going bonkers. There's another garden about 100 yards away where they've got gravestones that they've put in and everything. And I'm going, what's up with you? Are you daft? It's one of the daftest days on the calendar. It really is. It just used to bore me to tears. It was about scooping out a turnip, wasn't it? Putting a candle in it and going, is that it? And then you just,
But we never used to, the only thing we had the 5th of November, which is Guy Fawkes. And that was it, really. And I remember when Trick and Treat, I hate that trick or treat, first came into this country, and it's some kids came out of our American Air Force Base and did some trick and treating around a village, and they called the police out because villagers, nobody knew what it was in this country. And the kids were chased away, and the police came along. What are you doing vandalising round here? And all that. Because they didn't realise we didn't know what it was. It wasn't part of our culture. And then the next year, what did you get? Trick or treat. And it's all to do with money. And, I just think it is something rather sinister. Cynic about it. I don't know.
I think there is actually, and maybe we can make Thursday and sit on this one a little bit longer, a week today. But I think, you read. I never know whether I'm just reading clickbait these days half the time. I don't know about you. You just go, good grief. Everybody's got a really interesting story to tell, and I'm thinking there aren't that many.
Yes.
Maybe there are, but I've always, I think over the last 5 or 10 years, there have been a lot of articles that keep popping up at this time of the year saying, yeah, we know that there's a sort of front-end commercial aspect to it. The back end is that a lot of bad things take place on this night. And that would not surprise me because we're dealing with people that, they're doing a lot of bad things anyway. And I mean really bad things. I had reports here, there were some people that we knew over in East Sussex, I'm in West Sussex, who were saying that they'd stumbled across sort of like, gatherings of people in the middle of the night in woods burning things and stuff. And I'm going, really?
Yes.
How daft can you get? I'm sort of like a thick northerner
Sandy
when it
in
comes to this
Bedfordshire.
stuff. Are you? What's up with you? But the thing is that these convictions run deep with these sort of, I guess, generational families. They run very deep, don't they?
Sandy in Bedfordshire is the place. I knew somebody that moved down from Newcastle to Sandy and couldn't wait to get out of the place because it was a very creepy, strange place. And if you've ever been there, it is a very creepy, strange place.
Right.
And they said the local vicar, he was from Newcastle, and he said to this woman, be careful. Keep your doors closed on certain nights. They're very strange around here. And she witnessed this bonfire on a hill and some very strange things going on. And there's a lot of incest apparently went on there during World War II because all the men were away sort of fighting and things and lots of really weird things. I found it a creepy place. But no, with Halloween, well, it's the usual thing. It's a money-making racket. A load of old crap coming in from China. And the next day, it all goes in the bin. And that's it.
Yep. Yeah, I don't get it, really. What you were saying there about trick and treat as a kid, it was just embarrassing. Yes. I would never do anything
we
never
had it. No, we never had it as a kid, did we? I mean,
no.
It's only just come in the 90s.
Yeah, and we've had, not that I'm expecting any now, because all the children that have been knocking on our doors over the past, well, maybe, I suppose, 8 or 10, 15 years ago, they've all, of course, been eaten by now because they're all part of a covenant. No, I'm making that bit up. They, even when they knock on the door and say trick or treat, there's no real conviction in it over here. It's got no traction. It just doesn't mean anything. I just find it, of all these nights that they've created, it's the most bogus one of the lot. But I think in serious circles, it's serious. And I think what is that creepy feeling? Is it your instincts actually working properly, or are you just mentally suffering a psychosis and getting spooked? It's probably a bit of both. Actually,
I actually think I think the government is a death cult. I really do believe that all government is death cults, and I actually think the government is probably behind it. I really do. It's to work on the subconscious. Yep. I might be going into this a little bit deep, but when you look at the amount, let's put it this way, more people have been killed by their own government than all the wars put together. Yep. So they're deadly. And that's all they're obsessed with, is death. You look at the government, it's all negative, doom and gloom and death. That's all it is. That's all they're interested in.
Well, they're definitely obsessed with control, I think. And there's all sorts of little, there's things I want to talk about tonight. I don't know when to start talking about them because they might take over the whole show. Or we'll keep coming back to them. This whole thing about control systems in human affairs is, it's fascinating. That's not even the right word. It's compelling stuff because, I don't know about you, Eric, when you're sort of reading about the way that governments, for example, operate, or structured religions, right? There's a parallel in all of these things, or the way that the law societies work, or the way that the educational authorities operate, or those in charge of the media, etc., etc. They all conform to a similar pattern. You've got hierarchies, you've got positions of power. The higher up you go, the bigger the hat you get. I used to say
that's right. Yes,
the whole world runs on hats. Basically, if you can get the biggest hat, you're in charge of the whole world, and something like that. These are all these sort of ancient signifiers of who's in charge, in human affairs, and they're all modelled like this. And of course, the people that are supposed to be served by these institutions may have been in the early days, because I think nearly all of these things do start off with good intentions. I could be wrong about that, of course. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt. But in due course, every single one goes more than pear-shaped and ends up really controlling and limiting the capacities of the people that they're supposed to serve. Don't you think? I mean, the healthcare things, they're all the same.
That's right. Yes, I mean, let's face it, the healthcare, well, it's not care, they're just a load of, I call them the Muppet Show, because they're just a load of zombies, they're a load of robots that go around, and it's not care at all. All it is it's a big business.
Yep.
And they're drug pushers. And that's why I keep as far away from them as humanly possible. I think that.
Yeah.
But I mean, today, my little walk, my little gallivant to the local supermarket, which is about 40 minutes walk away, I had to pass by a chemist, and I saw people coming up with little doggy bags or goodie bags, NHS goodie bags full of toxic poison and muck and rubbish, and that they throw down their throats. And this is a question that I'll always put, and that is, if the pharmaceuticals are so good, why do you have a repeat prescription? Surely you just take them and they'll cure you, wouldn't they? So there's a little thought. And also, there's big companies set up that will deliver your toxic muck to you free of charge. How about that then? So...
I mean, we're kind of at the tail
business.
end, or at least it feels like the tail end, of a long slide into ruin, as it were, in all of these areas. And, of course, the pharmaceutical thing is the Rockefeller family, as we well know, loom large in that, with how they sort of overthrew the American the actual genuine healers in America. And no doubt the pattern's been repeated here. You see all this guff, and people, have to look at all the government ministers championing the pharmaceutical companies. They're going to solve all these problems. Really, are they? So it's it doesn't really come across like that, does it?
Well,
it really does not.
Look at Richard Nixon. He's his war on something beginning with C. And that was years ago, 50, 60 years ago. It never won, did it? Because the fact of the matter is, what they've got to look at is your diet, what you eat, what goes in your mouth. And as someone once explained to me, if you put a teaspoon of sugar into the petrol tank of your car every day, what will happen to the engine? It'll seize up. They said, well, just think what that sugar's doing to your body. It's true. It's very, very true.
Yeah.
And because up until about just over 100 years ago, most people only ate one meal a day, and if they ate more than two, they were considered a gannet. But it was thanks to the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and the cereal makers, I won't mention their name, that said, you've got to have 3 meals a day and start with cereal, which is one of the worst things you could ever wish to have first thing in the morning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this is the thing. It's all for money, because if you have 3 meals a day, you're spending more money. And also, you're eating more of their muck that they're trying to sell you in the supermarkets.
Yeah.
So
no, you're
that's
right.
It,
one of my sons came to me today, Eric, and said, Dad, I'm thinking of going on a 3-day fast, and I think you should join me. I said, okay, I'll need 3 days to think about that. Not that I'm against it. I think I've fasted twice. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you've got to prepare your body for it. You can't just go straight into it. I mean, I do 18 hours a day, basically, between 16 and 18 hours a day. And you will find that in 2 weeks, I lost 1.5 stone. The weight will just drop off of you. But you've got to be a bit strict on yourself. And I don't eat anything from 1:30 onwards or 2 o'clock.
I know. Apparently, when you fast as well, Belgian shortbread cookies with chocolate in is not. You're not allowed to eat them, and this is a major challenge for me. Yeah,
it is, isn't it?
It's quite a problem.
But you can within the 8 hours. But you can when you're not fasting. Yeah. Yeah. So
I am, of course, teasing a bit. I actually went 3.5. I think when I was in my 20s, I went 3.5, 4 days without food. Was working at the time. In fact, the company that I was in, the entire company had a week-long fast. How about that?
Really?
Yeah, 250 people. And everybody was going around with deodorant. Lots of deodorant flying around, just because as their bodies began to decompose, because we're all working pretty hard as well, sweating over a hot piece of paper, with a pen or typing away on computers and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it was quite interesting.
Yes.
Quite interesting, really. I can't say I was too keen at the time. I mean, people can sell you intellectually the benefits of it, but I wasn't really. I'll tell you one thing I did do this morning that you'd be quite impressed with. I peed on my toes. I'm
She
serious.
really?
Yeah, I did.
Well, that does happen when the wind changes direction, doesn't it? You
No,
know,
I was doing it on
especially if
purpose.
you're in the woods.
I was on
Oh,
purpose.
yes.
It wasn't just to improve my aim, although it did improve slightly because of that. No, it's that I was out with some chums on Tuesday evening, and lots of talk about urine therapy.
Yes.
Urine therapy. And so we
That's
didn't
really
bother
taking a
ordering.
pee,
We
innit?
didn't order any wine. I said, I'll be back. Give me a jam jar. I'll be back. And everybody got stuck. No, we did bother with wine. But one of the things that came up was, toe fungus. Do you ever get it under your nail?
No. No, I don't never get that. No, because you can get rid of it with apple cider vinegar.
Okay. What, you put that on? It's ectopic, is it? Or you drink it?
Yeah.
Which? Or
No,
both?
well, both.
Mm-hmm.
But apple cider vinegar will get rid of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I've never really had a problem with toe fungus or anything like that. But I think it is it's probably a vitamin deficiency. I don't know, but we better see. Barefoot Foreigner will probably have something for that. Let's have a look a bit, see if Barefoot Foreigner's got anything for it.
See, when you're a
she
bloke,
might-
you see, you can basically put your urine wherever you want to. It's not
Yes.
difficult. It's not difficult. And there's something really satisfying about improving your aim, isn't there, Eric? You'd know. I mean, it's not the sort of thing
Yes,
you do all
there
the
is.
time.
Because
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't have it bad. I've had it for donkey's years. It's just on my big toe on my right foot, everybody. I know you're all absolutely incredibly keen to know where it was. But it just won't go away because it's buried under the nail, So the rest of my feet are reasonably okay. I
Well-
do quite a bit of walking. I don't have sort of much else, but I just thought I'd
bathe
give it a
your
go.
feet
Yeah.
in apple cider vinegar. And pea will do it. I mean, pea, that's what they used to actually wear in army boots, wasn't it? They soaked their leather in pea. This is in the First World War in particular, and I think in the Second World War they did it.
Yeah.
I think my dad did it. And it'll make the leather all nice and supple. And also, people won't go near you because you stink the piss. But apart from that, it'll be all right. But
Well, apparently,
no,
I've been told you don't, and I have actually drunk my own about 4 or 5 years ago. I did it 2 days in a row, and I've still got the psychological thing of going, good grief, what are you doing? And, it's all right reading stories about sailors that are sort of clinging onto a life raft and having to drink their own to actually survive. And I can understand why you would do it. And all the sort of logic and the science behind it make a lot of sense. Apparently, it stimulates stem cells. Also, it's literally pure filtered water from your body. So it's totally matched up to the way that your body actually works. You don't want to be drinking anybody else's, by the way. That's not what we're saying. No, it's your own. And so there's a lot going for it. You know that thing, of course, when you're a child, when you're in the bath and you pee in the bath and your mum gets cross, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Don't do
Yes.
that. Right, it's dirty and all that. But apparently it's really good for you because obviously the water that's coming out of the tap is full of whatever it's full of, chlorine and all these other things.
yeah.
When you actually pee in the bath, and I don't mean for everybody to stop listening to the show and go off and do that right now. It's just, next time.
Aunt Sally, make note, please.
Yeah.
Aunt Sally, please make note, yes.
She may well know this, but she's such a lady that she's never wanted to talk about it, and rightly so. We don't want to know about all this kind of stuff. But apparently, like, what's that? The Japanese guy who did all the studies about talking to water and giving it good emotions, and that the
yes.
Yeah, well, it's the same with your urine. And basically what happens when it goes into the bathwater, it changes all the water, like through, instantaneous connective memory through all the water molecules. And it gets rid of all the crap out of the bathwater, and it's actually good for your skin. So
It is.
That's it. So I'm planning now to drink gallons of water about 5 o'clock, and then go for a bath at 7 and just go billy-o crazy.
Yes, it saves on your water bill as well. But
course it
no,
does.
seriously, Eli would know this. In Vietnam, when a bloke got injured, they'd pee on the wound because in the jungle that was pure water. And there's something in urine which has got lots of healing properties, and they reckon if you cut yourself, bathe it with urine, and that is a sort of natural disinfectant, and it'll actually be especially for you because it's got blood in it and all kinds of things like that. So yes, it's very good for you. And I know that there was one chap who went for a couple of months drinking his own pee, and he reckons it is, after a while you don't notice it. And is it Sarah Miles? I think she did it as well, didn't she? But,
Oh yes, she did.
Beth,
Yeah, she was. Yes, yeah, she was on a lot of TV shows, and I think she was one of the first prominent people, sort of a celebrity, as it were, to talk about it. And of course, a lot of people were at the time. This would be in the 70s and 80s, wouldn't it? They were kind of repulsed by this. I would have been one of them. You know, ugh, how dirty and all that. But
I was.
Yeah. I think, I mean, it might even be in scripture as well. I could be wrong about this, but I know in certain ancient documents, is it not referred to as the water of life?
I think so, but I know that in the First World War, the French used garlic as an antiseptic, and then they did an extract of urine, which was an antiseptic. I think the British did it, but that's really a lot of these antiseptics are urine. But Barefoot Foreigner in chat has said that for nail fungus, and she's actually got the technical name, which I'm not even going to begin to. Was it onychomycosis or whatever it is? Apple cider vinegar, as I said, baking soda, hydrogen peroxide, garlic, coconut oil, tea tree oil, oregano, aloe vera, Epsom salts.
Aloe vera.
Aloe vera. Yes. So there we go. So
I just came across some hydrogen peroxide in a bit of a cupboard clear out today. I don't have much of it, but I know that that's pretty good for you. Yeah. And one thing I've been doing this week as well, seeing as how we're on a health thing, look at us, gentlemen, we're really trying to look after ourselves. Very unbloke-like. I clean my teeth with coconut oil anyway. And it might have been on the Telegram chat, so shout out to whoever did it. I'm sorry, I can't keep on top of all these things. But somebody sent in a clip of a woman talking about brushing your teeth with coconut oil, but adding turmeric to the coconut oil.
Yes, but the trouble is that yellow stains every bleeding where, and it goes all over the place. Sorry.
It did because it went into my beard, right? I mean, basically, I shave about once every 6 weeks. and my beard sort of considerable. I'm actually in training, really, to try and get a job as Father Christmas, you see. And so, you know the guys that used to smoke a lot of cigarettes and they'd get all the...
Yes.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. And I had that. My mouth below, the bottom part of my beard had gone a sort of bright curry yellow.
That's right, yeah.
That was quite fun.
Here's
but
how
it does
savvy
work.
investors...
It does work.
Yes, hello. But it does work. But I've actually found salt as well. That's a good one. Bicarbonate of soda I use once a week. I brush my teeth with bicarb and the toothpaste. But yes, Lidl's doesn't pay us for this, but those jars of organic coconut oil are excellent in Lidl's. You get it's just over £2, which is not bad. No. Organic, and I think you get it, don't you, Paul?
I do. I actually just sent my son off the other day. At Lidl, I got him to get 12 jars. I buy it by the dozen, so I buy bucket loads. It's so useful. We fry in it. Look, it's just like things have changed, Eric. Here we are talking about all these domestic things, but it's important actually. So yeah, I don't cook with olive oil anymore. We used to fry things in olive oil, but I understand that goes carcinogenic, so you don't want to be doing that. So I'll tell you one thing I do. We sort of boil potatoes up, leave them for a bit, and then I'll slice them and fry them in coconut oil. Make them golden brown. Oh. They're absolutely fantastic with a bit of meat or whatever you've got going.
Yeah,
it's great. It's really, really good.
It really is.
And I'm eating less these days anyway. So I go to the chip shop and you buy chips. It's sort of like a kilo of chips. I mean, it's just tons, you know. I go, I actually don't want £4 worth of chips. Yeah, well, that's all we sell, you know. You just come out with this huge amount of them. It's not that. And of course, they're cooked in whatever they're cooked in. But whatever.
Well, there's something about fish shops that, I mean, there's very few real fish and chip shops around nowadays. A lot of them gone bust. And what you've got is these ones that sell not Kentucky Fried, but, you know, chicken and God knows what. And they don't know how to do proper fish and chips in like a traditional fish and chip shop. But regarding your nail fungus, I'll not only have a word with Miles about it, our Fockermall doctor, but Dr. Mayhill is coming on this Monday, plug, and I might have a word, if I can, I'm not sure, about her, because it is something inside, it's a vitamin deficiency, which is causing it. So if you can find what that deficiency is, it might be something like iodine or something like that. But you know, I've actually got some iodine from Dr. Mayhill, and I put just one little droplet of that in my tea every day, and that does me, and that's very, very good for you, iodine, and that also cleans your urine as well. That's another thing.
Oh, that's
that
pretty
iodine
cool.
does.
And you mentioned fish and chips there. I was on with
Yeah.
was it the other week? I can't remember. Or maybe this week. I was listening to Joss, who's nearby to me, and he's on Ria's show every Thursday. He was saying that he'd had some guests round, and he'd ordered fish and chips for all of them. I think it was about 8.
Yeah.
What do you think he paid? But 8 lots of fish and chips.
8 lots of fish and chips. I think you'll probably be touching about 50 quid, something like that nowadays.
Try 80.
Bloody Nora.
Hey?
And I bet there's a little tiny bits of fish and little bits, a few handful of chips.
Well, I don't know. There'd be a riot if you pay 80 quid and didn't get any food at all. But I mean, it's just unreal, isn't it? 80 quid for fish and chips for basically like 2 families worth, I suppose. So that's probably why people are not going there so often. But enough of this game. Have we talked enough manure for the opening half an hour? I think we've done pretty well, haven't we, really?
We haven't. I mean, we have. And Barefoot Foreigner is actually talking about going for a job as Christmas. Well, I actually got a smack around the face because round in our local town centre last year, they had Santa's Grotto, and they had these lovely scantily dressed ladies, you know, sort of like acting as, I don't know what they were, dwarfs or something, I don't know, to usher the people in to see Santa Claus. And I said, it must be fun. Do you help Santa to empty his sack every evening? And
did you say that?
I mean, what did I? No. What did I say wrong? What on earth did I say wrong? I just don't know. I just put my foot in it every time. I mean, I went into a shop to buy some felt. I said, excuse me, can you tell me where I can get felt? Smack round the face again. I just don't know what it is. I just put my foot in it.
I've misplaced my Reader's Digest handy book of double entendres, and I can't actually kind of figure out exactly what you just said. I'll have look it up after the show. Anyway, we have a guest who we've been trying to bring in. I know he was with you on Monday, but Nathan Lucius is here with us. I think he's currently muted. Let me just have a look. I've just put him on the stage. I'm going to. Oh, he's not muted now.
He's not now. He's unmuted now.
Oh,
hello,
we love it when you're
person.
unmuted, Nathan. It's so much. It makes it so much more interesting for the listeners. This is great.
Well, I was just wondering why nobody was responding to me while I've been talking for the last half an hour. It's just now I understand. It's because I've been muted all the time.
Well, it's a tactic. What we do is we like to dump people in the side part of the studio and let them talk to themselves, right? And then they get in the mood with the whole thing. That's what we do. So, yeah, that's what we do. Anyway, it's great to have you on board. Mate. How have you been? I know we've sent a few messages and everything, and I know you were ligging around with Eric on Monday. I caught some of that show, but not all of it. But it's great to have you here. How have you been doing? I've not heard from you in a little while.
Have you not? It can't have been that long, surely.
No, it's been that long. It has
I've been gallivanting away with Miss Barefoot Forager over there, so you know.
Well, this is a family show, Nathan, and we can't. But that's we're very pleased for you.
Do I have to keep it clean?
So, how long is it now? It's the same size as it's always been. Sorry.
Wow. I mean, to be fair, when you said you were going to spend the first half of the show talking about shite, I never expected you would literally go into urine therapy. I mean, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, well, we never quite know what we're going to end up talking about. I've got a few sort of things to peg on. I wanted to talk a little bit about your book.
Really?
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about your book tonight because we just want to do that. I've got the chapter headings here because I've been going through it. I haven't been reading it. I don't have a copy. Well, I just, to kick things off.
I still haven't sent you a copy. Oh, God, I'm the worst. I'm the worst salesman ever, right? It's my own book, and I'm the worst one at selling it, honestly.
I know. Well, it's the whole reason for getting you onto the show. This was the whole reason for getting you on, was to embarrass you about that. But I can't do it now because you've preempted me. I was going to embarrass you about it, but you beat me to the punch. Well, I don't think you'd... I'm probably going to get a Kindle version. I'm a big Kindle guy, and I think Kindle's going to work for me with your book. That's why I was checking it out. I don't have a copy just yet. I've been reading so much over the last week that I don't even know really what's going on in the news, which is really fantastic. It's great. It's really good.
Liberating. You're free in your mind, mate, because there's nothing good in the news. And honestly, is it even news or is it just propaganda at this point?
I don't know. I think there's a song in there, though. Is it news or is it propaganda? I don't know. There's got to be a song in there.
I ain't singing for you. I mean, people keep trying to get me to sing. I ain't doing that, especially over
No? Oh, what a pity.
I know.
Yeah. It is.
And what about Atlas? What about Atlas? Have you heard about that? That's a
Spaceman?
UFO or something. Yeah, little spade green men that are supposed to be coming through to us, and it's disappeared.
Yes.
Apparently, it's just gone. So
Has it?
that's all right. So we all take a sigh of relief. The bleeding thing's gone. So there
I
we
think
go.
they were saying, Eric, though, that it's gone round the backside of the sun. Isn't that what they've been saying?
Yes, and it should have come out, and it hasn't. So
Oh, should it?
Well, you've completely lost me now, Atlas. I mean, what's? Oh God,
Okay,
I definitely
so-
don't watch the news.
All right. So what Eric's referring to is that there is an object that they've been tracking and talking about for the last 3 or 4 weeks, I guess. You see a lot of posts on it on Twitter and places, or X, and this, that, and the other. And they're trying to ascertain whether it's under its own direction or whether it's actually conforming to the standard logic of an object flying through the universe. And there's some dispute about this. And it's supposed to be emitting some kind of a signal which they can't work out because it's supposedly not like a signal that's emitted by any other solid-bodied or gaseous object floating through the universe. And so there's all this talk. Yeah,
All right, couldn't resist.
Yeah, no, it's fine. That's why you're here. And
Exactly.
I know that Cliff High. I don't know if are you familiar with Cliff High?
Yeah, I'm familiar with Cliff.
He's intriguing. I quite like some of Cliff's stuff. I don't go along with all of it, but he writes about it with such passion and conviction, and it's very compelling. And his study of all these statistics and stuff. Anyway, I mean, I don't want to put words in his mouth. I get the idea that he thinks that there is something big about to happen, but even if it doesn't, first of all, I've got to tell you, I'd like it to. I think a lot of people would. I've seen a lot of posts saying, it's so boring down here. There's nothing going on. This would be cool. And I'm going, that's the sort of comment I would make. Yeah, go on then, rock up. Tell us what's been going on. Because, everybody else we've got down here is clueless and they're just lying to us all the time.
What's the whole thing about alien abduction, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, the aliens are coming. It's like, oh, thank God for that. Take us to your leaders. No, we're going to spare you the details. Just get rid of the leaders and we'll accept whatever you replace them with because they couldn't get much worse at this point. I mean, please send down the ships.
Yeah. I mean, what happens, though, if they rock up and they're just like the people that are in charge down here? They just start to bullshit us all the time. Would we even know?
Yeah.
It's a bit like, look, I understand that you're really clever and you've flown all across the universe and everything, but really, are you how do we work out whether you're actually talking through your backside or telling us straight? I suppose there might be some.
But they might say, sorry, I didn't mean to chime in there,
No.
They might say something very boring. They might sort of get out of their spaceship and say, greetings, I've been travelling 20 million light years. I think you know what's coming up. Could I use your toilet, please? It could be something like that.
They could. They could absolutely do
if
that.
they're that intelligent, they'd probably come here and think, God, I'm leaving. Don't forget that. We're just going to skip this one and go where there's a bit of intelligent life. It's a bit.
Yeah.
I think you might. I mean, they might be intelligent, articulate, but they could be like this, couldn't they? And of course, if they were like that, they're going to get on really well with Keir Starmer because he talks.
Oh, you beat me to it. I was going to say that's Keir Starmer.
Oh, the old clips are the best. Yeah, so maybe they've come to have a chat with Keir. I don't know. And then we can get it all sorted out. Everything can be sorted out and made neat and tidy. Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, but,
I don't know.
But do you ever see
I
that?
hope it's real. I want it to be real. I know, Eric, you're cynical about it, and you're right to be, and I can put my cynical hat on as well. Sometimes, though, I put my gormless, naive, blue-eyed idiot hat on just to see what it's like and go, oh, this is going to be great. And it's quite fun to play that role, do you know? Because I don't know one way or the other, really.
I hope it's real as well. But, I mean, have you ever seen that film? It came out, I think, in the 80s or 90s with Jimmy Now called Morons from Outer Space. And it was a send-up of Close Encounters, and it was absolutely hysterical, done on a budget. And it was about some people. There was a planet called Plop, that's the opposite side of the sun, which is absolutely identical to Earth. And these morons got in a paint spaceship that were real thick as anything and landed here. It's absolutely, you're off your seat with laughter. It really is a good film. You never hear of it now. It might be free on YouTube. I don't know. It's old enough, but
I don't think anything's free on YouTube, is it? There's always a price to pay on YouTube.
I don't know.
Maybe it's too close to the truth, Eric, which is why we don't hear about it right now. Maybe it's actually one of those programming films that's actually sort of predictive programming. You say this is really what it's going to be like.
Well-
It'd be just underwhelming when they come out. Oh, we don't know how we got here. We found this rocket on another planet. We just came here. Hello. Right.
Well, there's a
great.
marvellous
Now what do we do?
scene,
Yeah.
which Nathan, I think you would home in on it. It's classic. And it's supposed to be comedy, but it's really serious in a way, because this tart that comes from the planet Plop, she's being taken by a limousine to a television studio because they want to interview this alien. But they look exactly like us. And she's putting some lipstick on this car. It goes over a bump, and she accidentally goes, oh, and it goes up the side of her cheek, you see, this lipstick. And so she goes on television with this sort of line up her cheek. And from there on, all the women that go up and meet her have all put lipstick on with a line going up the cheek, going, oh, look, hello, and all sort of showing off this line going up the cheek. And that just goes to show the people's mentality,
But you know what I think, though? I think the nudge unit's probably behind that, just to see how many people can get wearing lipstick up their cheek.
It probably was, yeah.
What is a nudge unit? What I know
Nudge
it is,
you?
but
You know what
I'm
a nudge
inviting
units
you.
are.
One of either, yeah. What's
Well,
a nudge unit? Let's talk about nudging.
Nudging
All right.
is. Would you want to go first, Nathan, or me? I don't know.
Well, you've already started. I mean, I've written about the nudge unit in the book, so I mean, we can
You
we
got-
can
you
go
got-
into
you-
your heart's content. So it's
Well,
yeah,
a certain
go on, go on.
a certain magazine, which I'm not going to mention the name of, what they do, if you're trying to introduce an agenda, you make that agenda look normal, whilst amusing people or attracting the people, being like a Pied Piper. So you attract them with things they want to hear, like comedy and things like that, and then you gradually nudge in the agenda that they. So, for example, suppose they wanted to nudge in boat people to accept boat people, you would have a boat person telling a joke in part of this comedy that they'll do, so that you accept that these people coming over by boat, but they're perfectly okay. Little things like that, that's nudge, you see. So over to you, Nathan.
Well, I'm just going to go in for the main theme of what it is, which is social engineering, isn't it? But it's a subtle form of social engineering that's almost below threshold, so that it becomes more effective. If you try and openly tell somebody what to do, you're going to have an open rebellion. There are people saying, no, we're not doing that. I don't want to do that because somebody's telling me. But if you do it discreetly, if you do it subliminally, and it's very, very effective. So that's effectively what they're doing is they are engineering society in a certain direction by little tweaks every bit down the line. It's like you're saying, they use multiple media forms, and they're very clever at it.
They are. It's like soft kill.
It almost.
Well,
Yeah.
doors, those little swing doors as you walk into a supermarket. Now, why they're there, I don't know, because they used to have an open concourse. You could just walk in and walk out with ease. But now they've got these swing doors to get people, so it registers in your subconscious. You go through this little swing door, which automatically opens when you get there. So when they introduce this digital ID, which I hope they don't, you'll have to put your digital ID on this little scanner, and the door will open for you to let you in.
Oh, well, that'll
don't-
be
if it-
nice. That'll make life
Yes.
easier, won't it? And I can't.
For your safety.
Yeah,
You can
I
see
want to
them
be
doing
safe
this
and I
with
want more
COVID.
convenience. So that sounds
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, but you could see them bringing this in 5 years ago when they started with the barriers, and you had to use your receipt to get in and out. And people like yourself and me and people in the chat, well, I'm not being funny, but this was kind of obvious. You could see where this was going. Anyone who was surprised by the whole digital ID thing, have you been living under a rock? I mean, they want microchips into you. How do you think they're going to get to the microchip stage without going through this little bit where they're going to get your digital ID, and then it'll be on your phone, then it'll be on your wrist, then it'll be in your wrist, and then you'll be a slave to the system. Isn't that wonderful? But I mean, to be fair, it is overtly obvious to anyone paying attention. And when the whole are we allowed to say that word now? That naughty virus. When they brought the pass out for that, when you had to
Divox.
What,
scan in
measles?
to get into
Divox.
restaurants
You mean
before.
measles?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah,
That's
measles.
the one. That's the one. Yeah. But as soon as they were doing that, it's like, well, we know where this is going. This is entrainment. This is trying to get people to accept it subconsciously, so that when they do bring it in, it'll be like, oh well, it was easy, and it's probably for our benefit, because why wouldn't it be for our benefit if it's coming from our benevolent overlords, or something like that. So,
No, you know that
well,
you know.
so
Sorry, Nathan.
no,
please.
carry on.
I was just
No,
going
I
to
was
hop
just
back
saying.
to what Eric was saying about doors and this conditioning on doors. Do you think that, those
Mm-hmm.
great buildings that were built in the early part of the 1900s that had rotating doors? Do you think that that
Yes.
was basically trying to send out a message to people that your life is about going round in circles? Maybe the people at the time would have thought.
Yes.
Although they didn't have the internet then to actually work that one up. Half of the conditioning, we actually provide it back to ourselves, don't we? In the sense that when you're sort of resisting or analyzing all the stuff that you're doing, you're actually we're continually amplifying their message. This is why, to some degree, we're not actually really resisting it. Not that I'm into resistance, because it's the judo thing. Whatever you resist kind of persists.
Persists.
But we actually participate to some degree in really bigging up all this detailed knowledge about what they're doing to us, and it almost like makes it more real. I think that's part of the psychological processes that they've worked out that we do. We're right to respond to it. We're right to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But when we get excessive about it, I suppose that's like when you get nerdy about it, which is this obsession with minute details about certain things. It tends to act to reinforce the programming. Oh, I'm really against that. What are you against? All this, and then someone will tell you everything about something. You go, okay, fine, but maybe we should go off and build something else. Which is a much bigger sort of challenge, I think. And on the nudging thing as well. Yeah, just going back to on the nudging stuff, the one that leaps out at me the most in terms of, or the one that I respond to more and see more often because I'm looking for it, is the placement of people outside of our race in advertising. I think I got some statistics through the other day that these people are still in the minority, but when these aliens from Atlas arrive, and look, they may well, it could be absolutely an amazing thing if they do. Amazing is probably not the word that people are going to use, but they would get the impression that everything's sort of 50-50 around here. It isn't. But the conditioning is to actually create that impression in everybody's heads so that people are just used to this, which is, of course, part of the convenience conditioning program. Of course, by me voicing that, I've now just gone on some other particular list somewhere or whatever. But I'm not the only one.
We're probably on a fair few of those. Let's be honest. We're already on the list. They know we are. They know we are just by observing us on CCTV and what we say on social media. Not that I use social media, but they've got us. They know we are. They know where we are. Which is why I keep saying to people, so you can't hide anymore. So why don't you just do the right thing? Figure it out and do the right thing. It really is that simple.
Yeah, it is.
But it's unfortunately it's one of those things where it seems now as if, because we've got convenience, because we've got comfort, because it's okay, some people love their smartphone, their devices, their tech, their Alexas and stuff like this. To them, some people love it. I know some of these people, and they're so-called awake, and they're bringing it in. They're actually pushing that particular agenda, and it's like, well, at some point it's going to become real uncomfortable, and you're going to have to part with some of this, or at least get vocal about it, get some conviction.
I've had since your show a couple of weeks back, Eric, when you had Mark on, the bowler-hatted farmer, which was a really good show. I think I mentioned that I've been on my walkabouts talking to people, and I talked to quite a few on, was it yesterday or Tuesday? It was a fine day. I went out for a quick jaunt, and within about 200 yards, I spoke to 3 neighbours because they just happened to be within target range, and I saw them. And it's just talking about the idea of trying to build something here. Listen, I'm not even sure whether it's really going to work. I'm just out there doing sort of sussing out people and where their emotional or critical level is at. Not with a view to judgment, just to try and find out what you've got to work with. Just like they're trying to suss out, who am I and why am I speaking to them? And the responses are good. There's a guy actually nearby. He's fantastic with he's a mechanic, and he's basically rebuilding or has rebuilt an AC Cobra. It's absolutely magnificent, this vehicle that he's put together.
Wow.
Right? I mean, it's just brilliant. It's metallic blue. The only thing I don't like about it, which I haven't got the heart to tell him, is the wheels that he's chosen for it. They're far too ornate. They're not right. They need to be simple. But I don't have his confidence enough to be critical of his work, because the rest of it is just absolutely awesome. And it was a sunny day, and it was out there. He had the bonnet up, and he's got the engine ticking over, and it's just his pride and joy. And and I love it. It's a contribution, you know. You just walk past someone doing things like that and you just think, this is cool, and it is. So I said hi, because we've been saying hi to one another for 3 or 4 years, really, and I said, do you mind if I have a word? And he said, you know, I didn't say it so formally, but I said, listen, I just want to run an idea by you. And I said, look, I don't know what you think about the country, but I said, you know, and I just used the word politics. I didn't want to talk to him about politics. I really want to talk to him. But it was interesting, his response, because I could see a slight ripple of anxiety run across his face. And he went, that's a really touchy thing. I mean, he was concerned straight off. I said, oh, good. I'm glad you're aware of that. Yes, it is. I said, I don't mind what your politics are. I said, you're quite safe with me. I've never voted for a party in my life, and I'm not going to. But we had a good little chat. It was, the people's responses they're interesting. I spoke to another person who thought it was just a good idea, but I could tell from the way that they were talking that was it. This was just, oh, that'll be a nice thing to do. That's all it was. It didn't sort of lean into other parts of a conversation, which were, yeah, we ought to be doing something to sort of look after one another, which is really what I think is what I feel strongly that we have to do. I'm trying to find a way of doing it. And then I talked to another guy I've known for a long time. He was great. He's just shooting off to Australia for a holiday for 3 months. I said, well, you've picked a good time. He said, yeah, my daughter's down there, and it's their summer, and he's going down to Perth or somewhere like that. But he was kind of on for it. It was good. He was quite lively. He's probably a little bit older than me, but very practical sort of guy, out there looking after his house every day, painting it. It's very well presented. Everybody's house around here is well presented compared to ours, but they forgive me. They don't sort of abuse me verbally. Well, not yet anyway. And he was much more sort of, he was warmer and into it. But it just got me thinking about the sort of logistics of it. I was thinking, well, we could have a food drop at this parish hall. And then I'm thinking, yeah, but if all those people come together, you know what it's like, right? When you get people together. And then do people actually want to be disturbed? But the last guy I spoke to had kind of sussed in on this. He said, that'd be nice. He said, you know, you look around and everybody's just in their house all day. I said, yeah. He said, and what do? He said, they go out, they come back. So they're in a box all day. I think he said something like that, you know, working away at stuff. He said, I quite liked all that because I liked being in with a team most of my life. It was good to sort of go to a place and have office banter or whatever he was doing. And he said, but they could just come back and plonk in front of the TV. And as he said that, I'm thinking, I'm probably talking to lots of people who are doing just that every night, and that there isn't much level of inquiry or curiosity. But the truth is, I actually don't know. So I'm being curious to find out how curious everybody is. I think that's really what's going on with me.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, it proves that you're still thinking, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just to see if we can get some connective glue, no matter how thin it may be. If there's some form of connective glue, and then I thought, well, people are going to... Apparently there's a WhatsApp group for where I live, and I'm not on it, but some of my next door neighbours said, you don't want to get on that. I said, why? He said, it's just people looking for their cats. They've all lost their cats, right? I'm going, okay, well, it's a needed service. If you're a cat lover and you're sad that you've lost your cat, you get these little posters everywhere, you know, Timmykins, dear pet lost 4 days ago and stuff like this. And... but it's some kind of a connection. It's whether people, you know, then I think about people like us, and I think, are we maniacs? And I think in relation to most other people, we are going to be sort of viewed like that. So my conversations are not heavy at all. They're just sort of like, could we do something constructive together, like maybe sort out an additional source of food to support the farmers? That one strikes a chord, actually. Everybody I spoke to is aware that the farmers are under the cosh and they think it's wrong. That's a really good thing to know. A very, very good thing to know.
Just looking at the comments here, there's a couple of things. And well, one of the things I was going to bring up is what Barefoot Forager has just said. I wonder if there's a link between phone and TV hours. Right. So I'm going to say yes to that, because you've mentioned there that you're curious about watching people and stuff like that, which is great. But what you see now is everybody's glued to their phones. I mean, I know I've spoken about this. I mean, it's not even a secret these days, is it? Everyone can see it. But if you go and, you know, go anywhere, everyone's on their phone. If you go to a restaurant, a coffee shop, pub, supermarket, even in a park, everybody's glued to the phone, whether that's the kids, the adults, the kids sat with the adults.
Yep.
It's just a constant stream of people walking around entranced by their Black Mirror device, right? I mean, that's effectively what it is. And so that I genuinely think, and again, along with TV, I think that was what kind of brought this in. I think again, it's all entrainment. It's all to get us used to it. Things get smaller and smaller, and the Black Mirrors become more personalized to you. To me, it's just overt at this point that they're hypnotizing us with this, these devices. They're getting us hooked, and it's stopping people from communicating. It's stopping people from thinking, being aware of the outside world, being aware of each other. It's actively, when we talk about Agenda 2030, it's pushing that agenda, but it's not so much that they're pushing it. We are promulgating it for them. We are pushing it on their behalf because
we're being smothered by it, gently nudged into it. You're absolutely right. Yeah. This guy that I was speaking to had noticed that. I said, what do you think about I said, you go out for a walk? He said, every now and again. I said, what do you think about the energy and exuberance of the people around you? I was being intentionally sarcastic. He said, they're funny, aren't they? I said, yeah. He said, it's just not like it used to be. I said, well, everywhere we look, the congregation spaces, I was thinking just, even from this food drop thing, if that's what I end up doing, it might be something else. It might be just too much trouble or whatever. I thought, if we do it, say, once a fortnight, then people know that they rock up at this place and it's open for a couple of hours to pick up their order or whatever we do. And they might talk to one another. They might actually talk to one, and I don't care what it is. They can talk about bloody football if they want to. It doesn't matter. It's the mere fact that you're getting together and doing it.
How long? Just as a curiosity thing here, right? So let's say if we did break away from our phones, right? And how long do you think it would take for society to go back into that communicative space where they can be social again, where they can inquire about things, where they can be curious, where they can talk about things that doesn't require propaganda media telling them what to think or what today's subject is. How long do you think it would take to undo the programming, from smart devices and things like that?
That's a good question. Maybe we need to run a lottery or a book on it and take bets on it. I think it would be a long time. I mean, if you think about people even prior to smartphones, right? Although people congregated more and spoke more, they weren't really ever talking about these things. Now, one of the reasons they weren't talking about them is that the vast majority of people have sort of come into this space courtesy of the measles epidemic. I don't mind saying COVID. Do you get banned if you say it or something? I'm not even aware of all this kind of stuff.
I think it depends on the context, doesn't it? If you say certain stabby things, I think it changes the context of it.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, it is stabby things, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, you could say
thing.
Talking about little pricks or something. I mean.
Yeah, that covers a lot of ground, that phrase.
It does. It could be so many different avenues to go down for that one.
It does. But they weren't, I mean, they'd not been exposed to these things, but most people, I suppose, throughout their life would have never sort of pursued a line of inquiry into the things that they don't know. I don't know if I was mentioning, we've got a song coming up in a few minutes. I've got to play a song because we're at the end of the first hour, but I was just thinking.
Well, I need another coffee, so.
Yeah, you can make a coffee and all that kind of stuff. Did I mention that I was talking to some people from the Reform Party the other day?
No, well, not that I'm aware of. Anyway.
That's a good one. So look, we'll hang it there because we're just coming up to the end of the first hour. I'll talk about reform afterwards, or these people that I met, which I was much more interested in. Anyway, you're listening to Paul English Live here on WBN 324. We're halfway through the show with our WBN slot. Of course, we roll on for days and days on other formats, but I want you to imagine that Eric is the 1960s. Eric's smartly dressed. And he's just going down to the pub and he needs some music. We need some music to create a dramatic backdrop to this. And there's all these, this is it. All right. So it sounds something like this. We'll be back after this. Lay off those bloody bongos. Yes, Eric, you know that theme tune?
Ooh. Yes, from the Avengers, one of my favourite programmes, and I used to fancy Diana Rigg because she had nice big teeth. That's what it was. Yes, and
I'm glad you took it in that direction. I'm so glad.
yes,
She didn't. Actually, she didn't. She wasn't voluptuous.
No.
But she was. I just realised the other day. So yes, actually, somebody did guess it. Who guessed it? Alice Gorgeous got it. So she got 10 points and she gets a free Fockham Hall pencil. Except we don't know where you live, and it's not your real name, so it's almost impossible to give you the gift. So you'll have to have a sort of metaphorical pencil, something like that. But yeah, so Diana Rigg played Emma Peel, right? That was her name.
That's
remember?
right. That's
Emma
right.
Peel.
Yes.
And I was thinking about this the other day. I don't know if this is true, but obviously it's M appeal, as in man appeal, appealing to men.
Yes.
Do you think that they did that in that way?
I think they probably did. Yes, because what was her name now, Mrs. Is Emma Peel, but her name in the show was Mrs.
Emma Peel. It was Emma Peel. That's it.
No,
Diana Rigg played Emma Peel.
Yeah, she played Emma Peel.
Yeah.
But there was another name they gave her, Mrs. something or other.
Mrs. Peel.
Because she was married, wasn't she?
Yeah,
no,
Mrs. Peel.
she was actually Mrs. Peel, because that was it. Because that's right. Because she was married and her husband had got lost or something, and she was married, and there's a scene where. What's his name? Was looking out the window, and he seemed a little bit sad that she was reunited with her husband. Yeah. And then the next one came in, who I didn't really like, that Canadian woman. I don't think she was. There's something about her. But I think Diana Rigg was the best Mrs. Peel. Yeah.
I think actually it's one of the. It was my favourite
Steve,
TV
that
show
was
as
it.
a kid. It was
same
just
here.
It was just my favourite. I think those opening credits as well, which is what we took that theme. If you go and watch, they're just the most fantastic opening credits to a TV series. They're poncing around, shooting one another, popping champagne corks. It's full of all that, yeah, and drinking champagne out of those champagne glasses. Somebody's written, my dad used to dance to this and never spilt a drop. Good on him. Fantastic. And somebody else wrote, sounds like a gay James Bond theme. No, it doesn't. We don't do that sort of thing. But I know what they mean.
Well,
yeah,
Steve,
to be fair, it kind of does a little bit, let's be honest. Little tiny bit.
I was a young lad at the time. I wouldn't have even known what you meant. I was just enchanted. You're ruining all my memories. Stop it, the lot of you.
Yeah, but do you remember when Steed, he was always debonair, but he said he never ever had a gun. He always used different weapons because he was against it, because he didn't like using weapons. So you notice he always used his bowler hat or a walking stick that turned into a sword or something like that, but he never used a gun in that.
He used his brolly, didn't he? He used his brolly quite a bit. And he also used, he was dressed very well. He definitely was a sharp-dressed man, dressed immaculately. I think he used polite language, devastating weapon, incredibly polite and charming all the time, wasn't he? When he's talking to the villains as they're holding a gun at him, he was just sort of... I mean, the whole thing, of course, is mad. By the way, one of the writers for that is a guy called Brian, I suppose he must have passed away by now, Brian Clemens. Yeah, I don't know if it was by Albert Fennell. They were the screenwriters for most of them, and Brian Clemens. Interesting nerdy fact about Brian Clemens. I think he was the great-great-grandson of Samuel Longhorn Clemens, better known as another 10 points from Fockham Hall Pencil. Anybody here? Takers? No. Samuel Longhorn Clemens is more popularly known as Mark Twain. How about that?
Oh,
yeah.
And most of it was filmed around near where I live.
Was it really?
It was filmed in Hertfordshire. No, that's right.
Yeah.
And the Bentley. Do you remember he always drove an old Bentley, didn't he? A 1930s Bentley.
He did in the early episodes. He did.
Yeah.
He drove that Bentley, and I think Diana Rigg's performance is just amazing, and she's the most fantastically feminine woman. I mean, she became a figure, didn't she, for the sort of feminists and everything, which I think she rejected. I wasn't particularly interested in, but just everything. She's so charming. You think, oh yeah, that's really just. She was ridiculously charming. They gave her some great lines. They paid her peanuts. That's why she left. She got paid nothing.
That's right.
And then she got offered that role in the Bond film with Lazenby. And that's why she left the series. Broke Patrick McNee's heart, he said in an interview. He said it was awful when he found out about that.
And also...
yeah.
And the other one was, who was before Diana Rigg? It was Honor Blackman, wasn't it?
Yeah, in the black and white version. And before that,
Yes.
there was another version. God, we're really going nerdy now, which was before me. There's 1960. Well, it wasn't. I was around, but I wasn't watching TV when I was 0 or 1 or something like that. They had the first version was really heavy. It had Ian McShane in it, and it was not Ian McShane. Some other guy
Really?
went on to become. No, it's not Ian McShane. I've got that wrong. He's too young for that. There was another guy. It was very heavy. Yeah, it was like a cop thing, the Avengers, and they worked with the cops, but it morphed into this real sort of swinging 60s, slightly surreal thing.
Yes.
One of the things I used to love about it is that they have these huge sets and there'd be nobody on them. It had this sort of eerie, empty thing, but the dialogue and the crazy plots really made it work. Do you remember Mother? That guy that used to...
Oh, yeah. That bloke, he was a bit of a nutter. He was always in weird places, wasn't he? Sort of in the middle of a swimming pool or a boat or something. Or
pick up a phone and answer it in the middle of nowhere. It was just wonderfully weird as a kid. I just thought, this is wacky and brilliant and very playful, incredibly creative and playful, and not and just joyous, really. The plots were kind of secondary. It was just all the quality of the actors. Anyway, enough of this TV nostalgia, unless you want to carry on for another hour.
Well, no, what I was going to say is
God,
that...
no. You're way before my time with this stuff.
Well, do you remember Purdy? Because Steed, he admitted that he said he shouldn't have been in the second series. He said second series was fine to go ahead, but he shouldn't have been in it. He said, I realised, he said, I shouldn't. It should have just been Jonah Lumley and the other geezer, who I can't remember what his name was.
Gareth Hunt.
And him as well, yeah.
I think it was.
No rhyming slang.
Why am I remembering this? This is tragic. The amount of crap that's in my head. I don't know how it even got in there. I never watched that.
Do you remember
much.
the?
It wasn't a classic.
But I didn't like the second one. I only liked the first series. But do you remember the copy of the Avengers, which was a complete failure? That was Department S with Peter Wingard, who was later found in a public. He was found in a public lavatory doing a Tony Blair.
He was the fop of fops, wasn't he? He was absolutely ridiculous.
That's right.
And let's end on this because Nathan's completely excluded because he's very, very young.
Yes.
The infamous episode of The Avengers that they wouldn't air, they never aired it, is where Jason Wingard is, what's it called? The Hellfire Club. So it's got...
the one with Joanna Rigg in leathers. I've seen that's on YouTube. She's actually in leather.
I thought you might not forget
with a whip.
that. Yeah. And he whips her. And they said this is too kinky even for ITV in the 1960s. So they didn't show it. But enough of this tish-tosh about TV themes. See, we only have to play one theme. We go off on a big old man's sort of, I remember when I was a boy.
Yes.
That kind of stuff. They were. I think they were a bit more special, really. TV shows back in the 60s. They were a bit more. They were definitely more upbeat and playful and fun. They really were a lot of fun. But then they had better writers back then. Anyway, now before we just went off into memory lane like old duffers often do, or are doing more often, I was mentioning, wasn't I, just before that I think it must have been this Saturday if I've not spoken to you about it. My son sort of had been out in the morning. He came back. He said, "Hey, Dad, there's some reform people up on the street chatting with people." I thought, well, I've got to go and buy some coffee. And I thought I could do with a chat. So I went up to see them, and they were good. Obviously, I must have been their last customer of the day because they were taking the tent down when I arrived. As soon as I got there, I went, oh, we better start taking the tent down. But no, I ended up speaking to them about 15, 20 minutes. They were kind of keen to know whether I would vote for them. I said, no. They said, no. I said, well, I don't do that. And I said, don't worry. I said, I don't vote for anybody else either. But they were good. They were just good English people. And as it was going on, I'm thinking, this is actually interesting in another way. Interesting is possibly not the right word, but it's captivating. Why? Here we are a year and a half into this disaster. Actually, we're much longer into that, but the current version of the disaster, this Labour version of it. And you've got people out on the streets talking to the public about correcting the whole problem. I can't remember when that sort of happened. I mean, maybe I'm goofy because I don't go out Maybe political parties do this all the time. But these were just decent sort of housewives and business owners. They were all good blokes and good women. There were probably more men than women there, I think. About 4 or 5 women, about 15 blokes, all part of this reform party here locally. Had a great chat with them. And when I started talking about the food thing, they got really interested. They said, that's good. I said, well, it's not a rocket science idea. People have done that sort of... Because what they were saying to me was, they said, look, we know the nation's obviously got a problem as a whole, but we're really concerned about what's happening locally. I said, now I'm interested in that. That I'm interested in. So they said, and I started talking about banking, Eric, because you got to, right? You've got to.
Excellent.
Because they asked me, and I said, well, look, I said, Nigel Farage, I said, I'm not trying to be hypercritical. I said, but I won't mind a beer with him, but seriously, if you get him in, he won't be able to do anything. I said, I know you think this is an awful thing for me to say, but he's not in charge. I said, do you know that he just had his first meeting with the Bank of England about 3 weeks ago? They said, no. I said, oh, you don't know about that? I said, no. I said, that's where they're actually lining him up to do it. I said, I don't think you've got any concerns. He's their man. He's already been earmarked to move in because they've created him as the populist, and this is what they want. I said, but it will be an absolute miracle if he could do things that you really want him to do without getting killed. And they looked at me and they said, and then one of the women, this was really interesting. She said, I just mentioned a bit about the bank. I said, look, you know, I do my usual thing. You went to school. Yeah, you don't know anything about banking. No. I said, don't you think that's a bit weird? Really? Seriously? I mean, look, all these people, they haven't a clue how the money works at all. I didn't go into a big sort of detailed thing of it, but I went into enough to get their curiosity. And then a woman said to me, she said, you know, I've just been reading about the Fabian Society. I said, you have? I said, what have you read? She said, well, I don't know much about it. She said, but it's extremely worrying. I said, oh. I said, I think I'd be able to worry you to death, actually, if we really get into it. I said, when did you start looking at that? She said, about 4 or 5 months ago. She said, I wasn't aware of all this other stuff. I said, it's fantastic that you now are. It's brilliant. Really, I mean, when did a woman or
great.
anybody say, I now know about the Fabian Society? I said, you know that they're all in it. She said, well, I'm discovering this. She said, but it's very concerning. I said, I'm glad you're very concerned. That's absolutely the appropriate response, you know. And they said, could you help us? I said, well, I don't know. She said, well, we have meetings. We have some really lively chats. You'd be more than welcome. We'd love to hear what you've got to say. I said, count me in. So I'm probably going to sign up just so that I can go along and listen. I want to hear. It's like, you know, I'm curious to know what these people are actually saying, and also to see how fast it takes when the shutters come down when you start talking about banking. It's pretty quick, but it's not as quick as it used to be. So that's any place to do a bit of on the street market research is a good thing, I think.
That's excellent. But if you say usury, they look at you as if it's a new washing powder. So usury, what's that? Nobody knows on the street what usury is.
No.
And that is what's ruling our life. Usury.
So we have a communications challenge, don't we? We have to find a way of delivering these extremely serious topics, and actually it's the serious implications of them, to a neophyte audience. You know, I mean, right. I view it as a sort of protective shield for me. The more people that know these things and at least begin to gently, we want to nudge them in this direction. You know, if we're going to use nudging, how do I nudge them in this direction? So.
Well, take a copy of Nathan's book, Fake Awake, along, and say, and actually, I was wondering, would it be possible to make a pamphlet to promote Fake Awake, which is a lot cheaper, and you can give them out to people to sort of get their mouth watering a little bit, you know, a little bit of a temptation there. Just a thought. What do you think, Nathan?
Oh, hi.
How was your coffee, by the way? Did you have a good coffee?
Well, to be fair, it is a bit late for coffee because I'll be jittering if I drink that. So I went for some
we know
juice.
where to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So I went for some juice instead. I've gone boring in my old age. Well, right. So what? Sorry, what was the question, Chris? Because I'm thinking about what you were speaking about there about the whole reform thing and joining it. Yeah. To me, that's just a way to get you involved. You're never really going to see any of the machinations, but you know what's happening behind the curtain.
Completely agree with you. I know exactly what you're going to say. Nobody sucks me into anything. Honestly, I go in. I adopt a different act. And I'd say this to everybody. You have to act and behave differently depending on who's in front of you. This is not underhand. Right. It's completely appropriate. It's about creating empathy to start off with. You've got to find some common ground where you've got overlap, and that's the place to start off with. Otherwise, you just get rejected by anybody. You can't go up to a stranger and say, by the way, have you got 10 minutes? I want to really pin your ears back about central banking systems. And they look at you, they think you're mad. So it's a matter of easing in. I'm just interested to know where people are at. That's why I'm speaking. It's just a habit I've had most of my life. I like to know where people's thinking's at, because I'm going to say stupid things to them otherwise. Why, you don't go in and say, do you want to learn about, Chinese history? Not really. What are you talking about? Got to say things that are appropriate. I mean, I'm picking a ridiculous example there, but these were good people. That's what I got. I thought, these are just genuine, normal English people, who are obviously, we're moving towards the minority with that, but they're there and they're concerned and they were willing to put a tent up and talk. I know they think reform is going to solve all their problems. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to change that view in a 5-minute conversation with them. But to go and find out a little bit, I mean, if their meetings are tedious beyond belief and I see that there's so many sort of communication blockers in the room, and there are many of those, you get them all the time, then you just go, my timing with these people is not now. It might never be ever, but it's certainly not now. I'll go away and come back in 6 months and see if they've moved on a bit. Whether we've got that amount of time or not, I don't know.
I'm of the opinion, again, I see what you're trying to do there. I'm just of the opinion that anything political is a waste of time, because the political system in and of itself is part of the problem. As far right, so I talk about psyops a lot, and the three main psyops throughout history are pretty mundane if you think about it like this. The first one is religion, so I would say it's probably the biggest. Second one is politics, and the third one is money. And if you combine all three of those together, well, you've got modern day society. So it's kind of, it's like what you were saying earlier. If you're buying into the narrative, and if you're speaking about it, you're promoting it at the same time. I'm not saying don't do what you're doing. It's just, to me, it's, I just think barking up the wrong trees, especially with.
I know what you're saying. But
the new conservatives.
If you think about a marketing company or an advertising company, right? Which is the way I think, right? Who sells messages better than anybody else? Advertising companies. I kind of worked in it, and I worked in marketing. I'm not an expert. It's a long time. It's 30-odd years since I was involved in all that. But you have these little lists like who, why, what, where, and when. Who am I talking to? What am I selling them? Why should they buy it? Where are they? When do they make us? All the W's. They're really useful, and I use them as a little guide. I'm trying to find out if there's a route to nudge these people. I don't view them as members of Reform. That's not the way I viewed them. I know that they are, and they want to push that. And, they said, are you going to vote for us? And I said, no. And they were disappointed. Why not? I said, well, because voting doesn't make any difference. I said, but I'm interested in your passion to fix things locally. And we met on that ground, and it was good. It was a very polite, good conversation. I don't want to go in there and sort of create a fraction or friction with them. It's just market research. You don't go off and sort of sell stuff not knowing who your target market is. Now, I don't know how people are operating. The mere fact that they could be bothered to get off their asses and go and stand in a street, right, championing what they think is good. I understand why they think that, right? The fact that we know that they're mistaken in that is not particularly useful to introduce, in my view, in the first 5 or 10 minutes of meeting someone. You don't want to be making them wrong, even if they are incorrect from our perspective in what they're doing. I completely agree with you. But how do you get these difficult messages across? I mean, this is nothing new under the sun. You mentioned religion. This has been going on for thousands of years. How do you bring people around to a certain view? And how do you stop your message getting corrupted? Which is the biggie, because it always gets corrupted. There's always interjectors coming in.
You know what I'm going to say?
Yeah, go on.
Nudge them. Maybe we need our own version of the nudge unit, right? So we need to nudge it in a different direction, because it's like, right, okay, go back to the beginning of well, I'm just going to say 5 years ago, and everyone that was aware of what was going on were including myself, who were like, right, we've got to wake people up, we've got to tell them this, we've got to tell them what's going on, bang, 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 bang. Do you know what the most effective way of doing it was? Dropping little seeds in places and letting them figure it out for themselves, and then they'll come back to you, and then they start explaining things back to you. And I think that's the way we're supposed to nudge it. Yep. We use our own techniques. We figure out how they do it and invert it like they do it, but we're inverting it back the right way.
Bingo.
And it can be done. We know it can be done because they do it.
Yep.
And they're nothing special. The only thing special about them is they've been doing this for a long time. They've got bloodline education, or whatever you want to call it. They've been doing this for a very long time. They've perfected it. They've kept it all secret. They've kept it hidden. They've looked into psychology and philosophy and history, and they're relentless with it. But they're focused, which is what we lack, right? Yep. So what I'm going to say is we nudge it back the other direction, which is what theoretically we're doing here.
Yep.
Drop the seeds and let it. Just keep watering it. Just keep watering it, and they'll figure it out for themselves. But in terms of, I've got to ask, right? So you were talking about speaking to Reform, and the last time I spoke to canvassers, they came out with all the usual, agenda-based stuff, climate change, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to vote for that because I know it's a lie. Right, all of that. Did they, right, so were they actively pushing, whether they're aware of it consciously or not, were they actually pushing the agenda? Were they talking about the same old stuff, but from a different perspective, as if, oh, well, yeah, but we're going to do it differently, as opposed to, yes, we know it's a lie, because that's what I've got the problem with.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think you're right to have a problem with it. I've got a problem, although problem's not the word I would use. I'm trying to emotionally disassociate myself from myself. I've got this judgmental me, right? So have you, right? Which is based on your discernment and your education that you've given yourself over the last X number of years. So I've got all this stuff in my head. But I'm lucky. I'd mentioned it as well. I completely agree. This is me doing nudge research. Whether it will actually, sometimes people come to market with a product, they go this, and they think it's absolutely brilliant. And they go out and they test, and they go, no one wants it. You go, why? No, you've missed this. This is, you're missing this. What you've created is fantastic. But the reason why they don't want it is that there's this thing here, that's a tenth of the price. And they're quite happy bumbling around using this thing. You'll get a few sales, but we suggest you don't sell your house and put your life savings into this business. And of course, many people do that. They set up shops. That's a typical example. They go, it's the English thing. If I set up a shop, people are going to come in and buy my stuff. And you see the high street now littered with people with shops that just are up for 18 months. They burn through their entire bank loan and they're stuffed. It's that kind of stuff. And you're right. The other side have got all the research and the analysis about how we operate. But we can't attack them, if that's the right word, directly. We just can't. I think, in terms of, I've got all of us, you wake up in the morning, you've got a day to use. And I'm thinking, right, did I use yesterday as effectively as I could? And the answer is always no. It's always no, right? It's never, that was an absolute banging day. I got everything sorted out. But it's to try to build up some momentum in terms of connections with people. There are all sorts of hidden brains in every single town. They exist. There are people like us all hanging around all over the place, probably a little bit lacking in courage to speak out in little groups. And I go there as well to train myself in that, to speak to complete strangers in a little group and see if I can engage them and analyze where I'm failing. Right? It's down to me. It's not their fault. It's my responsibility to try and fix it. At least that's my mantra back to myself. I'm not trying to sort of say I'm the big I am and be cocky about it. I fail loads in these communications. People just shut down and go, okay, well, that didn't really work. And trying to figure out how to engage people,
Yeah, but I'm with you because I tried this as well. It's almost like there's a desperation to get the information out there. So then you kick into panic mode, and so that then promotes you into like really hammering away at it, and all you're doing is turning people off.
Yep.
Unless they're genuinely coming to you and asking you the question, you can't just go in there all guns blazing, because they're going to see it as an onslaught, and they're going to be like, oh right, it's one of those, we're out of here. We don't want to be preached at. And unfortunately, I think we all do that, especially from time to time, especially if it's something that we're passionate about and that we can see is a very clear, present fucking issue that needs resolving. I've just sworn it. I don't know what your policy on swearing is on you.
I don't know. I'm embarrassed, really. I'd probably just lose the show now, Nathan, but it's been nice. We've had a good run.
That's right.
And somebody had to blow it out of the water. So it's okay. You'll get a special pencil. It'll be all right, I think.
I'll get a special pencil?
I've come over all unnecessary.
You get a fucking whole effing pencil for being...
Nice. Can I get two so I can stick them both up my nose and pretend to be mad, like the version on Blackadder, and then maybe that can get me off the planet and send me home or something like that.
I mean, but not to make too big a point of it. The fact that a woman just raised
You've
the
done it
topic
now,
of the
haven't you?
Fabian Society. It could have been a bloke. The fact that one of these people, the gender was not actually important, or their sex was not important, that she mentioned that she was doing that, I thought that was I just took that as a really good sign, because I decide to take it as a good sign. Some people might say that doesn't mean nothing. It does, because this woman didn't even know the word Fabian up until 6 months ago, and the vast majority of people don't even know it, and they're beginning to sniff around and go. And when she said it's really worrying, that's the intro to start putting the other stuff in. I mean, I said, well, the problem is nobody here really. I said, do you know anything about banking? They went, no. I said, well, I'm not blaming you. It's completely understandable that, because you went to school and you've not been taught anything, have you? They went, no. I said, okay. I said, everybody else is like this. I said, but you found out about the Fabian Society, which is a fantastic start. Mm-hmm. The fact, in other words, what she was saying to me, forget that it's Fabian, she's got initiative to find out. That's what we're looking for in people, is to put that question mark in people's hearts and go, you're not asking enough questions. And even if the first questions you ask are crap and trite and surface because you're too scared to ask the big ones, keep asking the simple ones. You'll get onto the meaty ones as you go. Don't be bothered about the answers. Just get that spirit of questioning things all the time, because the universe will give you the answers. If you ask things in the right spirit of genuine concern, and I got that these people were genuinely concerned. I found that encouraging for me personally, even if they're clueless about the details today. Possibly, if I talk to them more, they'll be less clueless in a week's time, and in a month even. I don't know what else to do, really. I mean, I wish there was a magic button. You go, look, bang that, and everybody just, their brains light up on a Thursday evening. They just go, got it. Right, great. Now what do I do?
Well, think about it from this perspective. So I know there's a lot of fear out there, especially in the mainstream media. But if you look at fear from a different perspective, you've just mentioned that you got through to them, or that the conversation started, and that they were concerned over the issue, which is the same reason that I got into this, because it was like you look at it and you think, well, something's not right. What's not right? Where do I, oh my God, what they're doing? Oh my God, that's a thing as well. And then it leads you into more and more things. And the more you investigate and uncover, the more concern, the more fear it ramps up, and that then triggers you into finding even more. But at that point, you're so concerned that you feel an obligation to do something. So for that reason, I'm going to say that the fear response to this is actually quite good to start with, right? So it's the fear response that's putting people into a mental state that's saying, right, something's not right. I need to do something about this. And that's great. That's great to get into this, because I think it's the fear that triggers that reaction.
I
the
think
only
you're
thing
right.
is,
but
then once you've delved into it, once you know who's behind it, what's happening, why it's happening, how it's happening, once you've done that, once you've gone down that rabbit hole of fear and pain and suffering, you've got to come to a point where the fear is no longer useful, right? So at the point where you become, I guess, competent in the subjects that people are delving into, in order to make that productive, in order to find the solutions, you've got to get to the point where it's like, right, I've done the fear. It's led me down to where I need to be. Now, what do I do with it? Because if you stay in fear state, it goes from being a catalyst for change to a catalyst to step you down and make you stand down and do nothing about things, because you're so afraid at that point that you think that you become disempowered by it. That's not what we need. We need the opposite. And again, it's people. I say to people, we've got to learn from the bad guys, right? And people say, oh yeah, but no. Think about what I'm saying there. If they're doing something and it works, right, we need to figure that out. If they've got information that we don't have, we need to figure that out. And then we need to use it to our own advantage. We need to turn the tides of this, because otherwise we're learning nothing. The idea as well as to what you're saying there about curiosity and people getting, thinking for themselves and being critical and challenging their own beliefs and challenging what other people say, that is the best way to be. Because it proves that they're thinking, it proves that there's a genuine compassion there, that there's genuine care about the state of affairs and the world and nature and human society and all of these things. And if we don't delve into that corner of our brain that's actually questioning things and curious about things, if you want to know something, that's when you really learn, because that's when you're going to push yourself to find out. If you don't want to know it, you'll lose interest and turn off.
Yeah. Well, if we look at your book, Nathan, and the title of it, Fake Awake,
yeah,
you there's been this huge glut, and please feel free to speak about any aspect of it that you want. Someone said that. By the way, I've put a link in the chat. So there's actually a link in the description for this show on YouTube and Rumble. There's a link over to Nathan's book on Amazon. You should click it, even now, click it and look at the preview of the Kindle version, which I've got on my screen right now, because it's got all the chapter headings and it's really useful. You don't get the whole book, but you can see the layout, the framework of the book, and it's very, very useful. You think about these people that have come in that are still not asking questions, not the right ones. In other words, one of my observations, not that I've done Stand in the Park, Eric's, provided all the insight onto that, and it's broadly speaking true. Yeah. It has become like a trend. It's like, oh, well, people used to be hippies in the 60s, and now we're Stand in the Park people. This is nice. This is a nice middle class sort of thing to do, right? And then you say, do you want to really ask some serious questions? And people back off. Now, also, when you think about, say, a class or education, that wonderful thing, school that we all went to, there are people at different levels of aptitude at different times in their life. You might have started off as a particularly dopey student. I know people did when they were sort of 5 to 8 because they were just, as boys, you want to climb trees. I'm not listening to you. But sometimes later on in life, you get a trigger. Now, the problem we have is that that's a lot of time from 5 to 18. That's 13 years. We've got like 13 minutes. So I'm going, this is a bit of a communications challenge. It's not that we don't have the truth or parts of the key information. It's knowing how to package it right. And that's what advertising agencies do rather brilliantly. Of course, they are backed up by colossal budgets for this repeated exposure to get the messages and the conditioning across, which is what it's all about. So, I am fully aware that it's a bit like sort of, taking a leak in a rainstorm, what I'm doing. I've got that. You're like a drop of water in the Pacific Ocean. But you go, well, that's the situation that we happen to find ourselves in. Can we get bigger? I think we can. I'm absolutely convinced that we can. And little signs like that from this woman tell me that we can. It's just a matter of becoming more effective as individuals when we talk to other people, who are not in the loop as close to the hub as necessarily we are. I know there are people even closer to it. They can tell you everything and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think we need to know it to that level. And I mentioned to this woman, I said, look, the Fabian, do you know the history of them? She said, no. I said, well, 1884. I said, that's why Orwell's book is 1984. It used to be in it. She said, did he? I said, yeah. I said, but he was telling us a good thing as well, I said, and it didn't start off bad. It started off from, just like the Labour Party didn't start off bad and all this. All of them have been invaded, by this force that basically takes control of these things. And I said, we're kind of living through a rerun. I said, of the communist revolution 100 years ago. She said, really? I said, you've been living under communism your entire life. It's just been dressed up. Now you're beginning to see it for what it is. I said, and this is why you're concerned about what's going on locally, because this is not the way we are designed or want to live. We're not happy. And she said, no. I said, and you're unhappy. Yeah. So we're introducing people to discomfort. This makes the message even more difficult, because advertising's got a promise of all these benefits. You're going to feel better if you buy this and all this. We're saying, actually, if you listen to us, you're going to feel worse. Oh, you will, I'm afraid.
Well,
if you're awake,
right. So
you will feel worse.
This is the problem, though.
Yeah.
This is the problem. We don't want people to feel worse. We want them to feel motivated, right? So again, does fear work initially? Yes, it does. It gets people's attention. But then you've got to twist that and say, right, okay, the problem. So keep digging and keep looking. Take it back as far as it'll go. Take that problem back as far as it'll go, and it'll take you to the cause, the initial causes, and that's where you need to go. And this is why I keep bringing up things like science, religion, statism, money and things like that. If you can take it back to its common cause, you can probably figure out what the solution is. And in this case, you can figure out what the solution is. But okay, well we've talked about you can't know everything, but I think it's healthy to want to at least investigate as much as you can initially, and then pick something that you're most passionate about and lead with that. But the problem with that is a lot of the things that people are leading with are in themselves psyops. Right, so they'll say, "Oh, I'm gonna pick on flat Earth for this one. So if there's any flat Earthers, I'm sorry, but just hear me out." If you go down that rabbit hole, and a lot of people have, and you decide that that's the truth, then you're going to push that as your truth, as your passion, and yet there's no guarantee that what you're selling is actually truthful. It's just you have fallen for another psyop whilst thinking that you are now awakened, right? So I'm going off tangent, right? Well, I'm going to bring it back to where I want to take that. One of the things that I tell people, and that I told people early on, is first of all the seed planting thing. That's fine. Plant the seeds and water them occasionally. The other thing is, don't look at this. Don't look at life. Don't look at all of the agendas as if it's in front of you and behind you. Take yourself up above it and look down upon it, right? And that's when you're like, oh, right, that links to that links to that, oh, that's going there. If that happens, then that'll happen. And if that happens, that'll happen, because we know that because of human psychology, because of sociology. You can figure things out just by looking at psychological responses, at societal responses. So don't look at it as, this stuff is all around you because you're going to feel overwhelmed. Take yourself up above it and look down and say, right, how does all of this fit together? And then what you're doing is the thing that all of the Truth Brigade will say, oh, well, I'm a critical thinker. Well, unfortunately, no, you're not. You're not thinking critically, because to think critically requires that you are being critical of your own thoughts, and you're challenging your own beliefs, you're challenging your own ideologies, right? And most people don't do that. They latch onto an echo chamber and they go round and round and round in circles, and they form purity spirals where, you've got to outdo each other on how much you know about the subject that you're in your echo chamber for. Forget all of that. Forget all your beliefs. Forget all your ideologies. Just go straight up and look down on it and start questioning everything, genuinely questioning everything, including and especially your own beliefs, because that's when the magic starts. That's when the real progress, the real change starts. Because if you can say, well, hang on a minute, if I was wrong about that, what else have I been wrong about? And it's only when you realize that you're wrong about things that you can start to fix them, and you can start to really investigate the subject. And so this is where we're looking at things like Dunning-Kruger effect, which is where people have. I mean, we've discussed Dunning-Kruger effect in the past, haven't we? Which is where
we have, but these things are always worth repeating because
in their own ability.
Yeah, there's a clutch of core bits of information that really cover an awful lot of ground quickly. I think the other thing is that different people that you speak to, because they're different, they respond in different ways. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's some sort of psychological categorization chart, right? Some people, their fear will get the better of them. You can't really work with them now. That's all I say is, when people disagree with me, my internal thing is currently. I always add this thing, currently. And I will say to people, my current understanding is this. But if we meet again in a month, I might actually augment what I've said or even retract some of it, because this is an ongoing process of permanently questioning every single thing that is being sent into my head. And the problem, it is. And of course, what school unfortunately produces, and what most people go through life with, is literally no intellectual defense mechanisms against this stuff that's coming into their head, particularly over the phone. This is my phone. I claim this. I do this. And everybody else is reading it, so I guess it must be true. Well, it becomes a sort of perverted truth, or the agreement of society that this is how we all behave. We all do this sort of stuff.
It becomes a perceptual truth. It's perceived as truth because it's accepted as truth because it's popularized, which is another thing. Sorry, just to go off on another tangent, that's another thing I used to tell people. If you can make the truth trendy and fashionable, it'll catch on. And I think that's the process that we're seeing now. It's become trendy, which is why we're getting another sort of movement behind it. Anyway, sorry, that just popped up in my mind as well.
Barefoot Forager says something very interesting in chat. She said, Gareth Icke recommends using the phrase, weird, isn't it? Now that's a good one, isn't it? Because isn't it?
Yeah, but okay. But why is that? It's because it's getting the other person to think, isn't it? It's like, oh, that's weird. And then so they'll be like, is it? Why is it weird? Right. Okay. So yeah, that's a good one. Sorry,
I've not been
following the chat for a bit.
But a big problem, I mean, especially around where I live, they sit in front of their massive televisions, watching the BB's feed, telling them the truth, inverted commas, and and I mean, my neighbour decided to tell me all what's going on because he reads the Daily Mirror. As if I didn't know what was going on,
Do you know,
so at least it saves you the trouble of having to buy a copy, Eric.
Well, that's right. Yes.
Well, here's one for you. So a good couple of years back, say, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, I had a friend who was so brainwashed and bought into everything, and he's saying, "Well, you're just naive. You're believing in all these conspiracy theories." And I'm like, "Well, is it still a theory if it's got evidence to back it up?" And one of the things is he said, "Well, you keep talking about the mainstream media." He said, "I'll read the Guardian." And it was one of those moments where it's like you kind of. It's a face bomb, and it's like, oh yeah, the Guardian. That's totally
I read the newspapers. I think that's hilarious. I love that.
Yeah.
I'd actually quite admire someone who said that to me. Well, I watch the TV news. Oh yeah, all right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and well, this is another one that I've come across. Well, I watch the news. I'm informed. Are you really? No, you're conditioned, mate. There's a different. I used to think that way. I used to think it's an intelligent thing to keep the conditioning on 24/7, so that you get the same message repeated at you 2,000 times a day, and then you realise, oh, hang on a minute, they're all doing the same message. They're all doing it on repeat one, and it's all for 5-second focus.
And they all get their news from Reuters. And who owns Reuters?
Well, it's our friends, the Red Shields, isn't it? As far as I'm aware.
That's right. And
because there's two, the Associated Press and Reuters, and they're the ones that basically dictate the news, i.e., they make it up and give it to you.
Yeah, I mean, we're dealing with crowd control technologies, let's call them that, which are embedded in that group for thousands of years. These are people whose ancestors were kings or bureaucrats or ambassadors or this, that, and the other. They have a much more finely tuned ability to observe the behavior patterns of the people that are in front of them. And the thing about face-to-face communication is that you can suss people out lightning quick in terms of where their emotional bias is and this, that, and the other. Yeah. When we're doing the broadcasting stuff here, we can't see everybody, but we get a good indication really from the comment. That's what makes the chat with this stuff so dynamically important to the whole process of what we're doing. And I am looking at it, by the way. It's just that I'm talking so much. I can't get to read it out, but Eric's doing a good job. But that's why it's useful. I do it also to have it sounds sad, to have real life communication moments. In other words, it's all right me going around telling everybody they're not going out and talking to people, but if I'm not doing it, I'm a joke. I want to do it. I speak to whoever's coming down the road when I'm out walking. They're gonna get at least hi, nice. I'll make piffle chat with them. I speak to literally everyone I meet. So on a walk, I'll probably connect with 20 people, and I say something to every single one of them. And some of them, I don't know what I'm going to get back, but I do it to keep my tonsils, to keep my voice box going. It's important, this stuff. Because even if you don't reach anybody, what you're doing as the communicator is you're strengthening yourself. And you're showing a commitment to this all the time. I have to keep sending signals back to myself that this is serious stuff. I am serious about it. And that means I can joke about it. That's what we do around here. It's that serious that we can tell jokes about it because we need to. We go bonkers otherwise. We are in a war situation. We are, in a trench, and we are getting shelled, and we've got to find a way of dealing with that. I think people are wonderful. I really do, and I don't blame them. I think they're absolutely amazing. A lot of people that I meet, they're really, really good-hearted, and it's not to be taken for granted. But the other side of taking advantage of the good nature of our people, and this breaks your heart. You can see it all the time. And I used to be a naive idiot when I was a teenager, but it didn't matter because I wasn't participating in this adult world and didn't want to, frankly. Why would you want to do that when you can kick a football around and just talk idiot stuff with your mates? It's just such a laugh. It's fantastic. And that sense of sort of, we can do what we like. Well, we can't do much because we ain't got any money. Yeah, but we can go for a walk over that field and throw something at that cow. It's really pretty cool, really. But people don't have any sense of, there's not a spontaneous element in people's lives. But people are concerned, and I think this is a good sign. It means that there's good fertile ground on which to build, and it's only going to get more fertile, unfortunately, as the situation gets worse. The main thing is, I think part of this as well is it assists each of us and people like us to not shut down ourselves. You got to.
We can't. We don't. Sorry, just to cut in again. We don't have the option of doing that anymore because if we shut down and back out of this, then we become culpable in what happens afterwards. Yep. And I'm not comfortable with that. So I used to be quite shy, and I'd be careful what I say. In some regards, if you read the room a little bit. But if I see something, I'll just call it out. In conversation. In fact. I upset a neighbour of mine about a month ago. He was walking his dogs, and he was talking about all the flags and how Starmer's the enemy. And I just said, I said, look, begging your pardon, I said Starmer is just a cog in the machine. I said this what you're seeing here is going to take over the world. I said it's every country's doing this. I said they're doing this. I said it's the same agenda that's being pushed. It's nothing to do with this political party against that political party, and it's sure as hell nothing to do with Starmer. He's just the front man of it. He's just the face of it. And unfortunately for this chap, I really drilled into him, and I thought, what am I doing? I kind of felt horrible afterwards. I said, look, I'm going to apologise for having a go.
You're a horrible person, Nathan. We're
well,
appalled.
I know, but it's just I did feel horrible in the end. I'm like, right, mate. I said, look, it's not personal against you. I said, but you really need to figure this out now. I said, because we're running out of time. And he's like, no, it's just this country. I said, no, it's not. I said, the same agenda, the same. I said, just watch. All the different countries are going to do it, but they're going to do it. They're going to call it something slightly different. They're going to bring it in at a slightly different time. They're going to try different things in different places. I said, just watch. I said, if you don't take my word for it, I said, go on the United Nations website and just type in Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2050, and you tell me what you find there. I said, and don't skim it. Press the bullet points. Find out how they're going to do this, right? Look at how they're going to do it. And you tell me that that's not being applied everywhere. There is no escaping this. And that's not me trying to put the fear of God into him. It's me trying to say, look, you're only seeing a portion of this. Look at the bigger picture and the whole thing will click into place. And then you'll be fighting the right battles as opposed to, oh, Starmer's the bad guy. Well, Starmer might be a bad guy, but he's not the bad guy, and he's sure as hell not the focal point of our attention.
He's the errand boy du jour. That's all he is.
Yes.
He's the errand, and he's a bad one. Yeah. He's a nasty little errand boy. And he's been picked for those qualities. Now, one thing I failed to mention to everybody is that I've dropped the telephone call-in thing with the numbers because, frankly, technically, it was pants. It was just not working right. So if you want to come into the show, you can do so, but over Tinternet only. I think that message is saying that. So you go to paulenglishlive.com/call. It'll bring you through into the studio. And guess what? The enterprising Etta has done just that. So, Etta, hi, welcome to the show.
Welcome for having me or letting me on.
Hello, Etta. Hello, Etta.
How's everybody across the pond?
We're happy Englishmen, as you can tell, Etta. We're having a lovely time. How's everything across the pond on your side of the pond?
Well, it's probably about the same as what we just saw in Ireland with all the riots and all that good stuff. But right. I have to get handed to the Irishmen. They know how to, they're fighting back for the right causes. We don't have, I haven't seen yet, the fake No Kings protests and all that crazy stuff. But I wanted to add on to what you guys have been talking about. And I remember when I was first waking up, if you will, and I probably went through at least a 2-week kind of dark night of the soul, realizing just how bad and how much I've been lied to, and my whole worldview was flipped upside down. So it was really a very difficult pill to swallow. And I've been asking myself the same questions you guys have been presenting, and how to inject the truth and the information to people who aren't quite there yet.
Yes.
And because they will automatically just block you out.
They do, unfortunately. Again, we've all seen this. The more you try and push it on people, the more they reject it.
Right.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't. So I was thinking to myself, been doing this for a few years now, how can I present the truth and the real information, what's really going on, in a way where people will consider it, because they don't, a beautiful lie is easier to digest than the ugly truth, right? So what I found is pretty effective is I will maybe talk about something that people don't normally know about, but more than likely will come up on mainstream news eventually, at some point in the near future. And then when they start seeing it on mainstream news, then they'll be like, wow, I didn't realize she was right. For example, my own father, he's like, you know what? You were right. I'm like, see? So, or I use historical context. Well, this back, and, during this time period, this happened and that was the outcome. And then I'll
Yeah.
make a correlation to what's going on now. And then so they could see, well, yeah, that does make
Common themes. Again, history.
sorry.
People say it doesn't repeat it rhymes. So history's got common themes there that if you're familiar with it, you can then say, well, look at what happened, say, during the Soviet Revolution, and
Correct.
how that is similar to what's happening now, and
Right.
draw some not coincidences, but similarities and synchronicities between
And
it. Say,
parallels.
well, look,
Right.
yeah, parallels. Thank you, brilliant. But yeah, sorry, carry on. That's
No, and I've found that a lot of times people will be much more open to what I have to say, and and then of course dropping the seeds and water, and that would be, I guess, watering the seed. When you kind of
Yep.
drop the seeds and they
absolutely.
start seeing it for themselves. That's one technique I've found that is.
I think it's a
probably
good way
most
to go
effective.
at it. Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I think another thing about talking about historical examples, like French Revolution, whatever it is, and I throw these things in all the time, is you're distancing it. It's less personal so that people can listen to it. It's almost like, oh, history's quite interesting. It is if you tell it right. But you can use it to illustrate these dynamics and say, well, they were facing a similar thing. Were they? Yeah. And this, that, and the other. And to just get it rolling without it being, you, sir, are directly in the biggest pile of shit you ever knew, but you don't know about it because it's a bit too
Yeah,
much.
right.
It's like, yeah, I know you've been
Right.
eating cornflakes all your life, but here's some caviar. Get stuck in. I think it's a bit beyond my palate. It's a bit too intense. And we here on this side, I guess we have to become ever more sensitive about where we're at. Because if you are well stocked with knowledge, one of the things that you have to sort of suss out, this is why face-to-face is very useful, is where the other person is at. You can't it doesn't work to overload people, like you were saying, because they do shut down, and we don't want that. The other thing I was thinking as well is there's this thing about little groups, teams of 3, like a little cell. Like this woman that mentioned the Fabian Society. Now, she knew all the other people in that group way better than I'm ever going to know because she'd been hanging around with them for X number of months or whatever. The idea is to get a couple of those people around her so that you feed some person who then takes it off to another group. And all these things happen naturally as well. But I'm thinking of these things all the time because when they congregate and then you realize, oh, yeah, we got together and we talked about that on Monday and going, this is good. This is really, really good. And it will work. It's like a ripple effect. And
Right. And then sometimes people want to prove you wrong.
Yes.
Right. And then I'll respond, well, prove me wrong. Go ahead, look it up.
Can I just interject it here? That is brilliant what you've just said there, because when people, I mean, and they get really head up on certain things, and it's like, well, you're wrong. I'm going to prove you wrong. Yes, please do, because if you're genuine and you do the research and the investigation, you're going to find out whether I'm right or wrong, or whether you're right or wrong. But at least you're doing the work then. Right, you're going off, you're thinking, you're investigating, and that's the best thing they can do. And if they come back to you, they're going to say, well, actually, you are wrong, in which case then you can learn from it, or actually
Correct.
you were right, in which case they have now been brought to scratch by their own curiosity.
Right. And that's half the battle.
Yeah.
Right. That's half the battle right there. Absolutely.
Yeah. So no, that's a great point.
But I've also noticed a few establishment people, I wouldn't say is that establishment. Have you heard of a chap called Colonel McGregor?
Yes, in the States.
That's right. Now, he was talking about the French Revolution, and he was obviously a colonel, and he's saying things as they are and what's happening. Very interesting man, and he was. He knows how far to go, but what you were saying, Paul, was similar to what you were saying about the French Revolution, but not sort of so much, just keeping back about, what I was thinking, hang on a minute, has he been listening to our show?
Of course he has. Hi, Colonel McGregor.
You know what, though? He might
Hope
have
you're
been.
enjoying this week's episode.
This is the beauty of it.
Yeah.
But he might have been listening to the show. I mean, again, it's another seed, isn't it? And then somebody else might take it and think, right, okay, well, I can do something with that, and then I can do my own show, and why the hell not? Anyway,
I think they need little. I mean, I've actually found leaflets help, and those foxbobs, they help as well, because people can read it when you walked away. There it is. It's in front of them. It shows you're acting like a signpost. And I think acting like a signpost is probably better, where you don't say very much, but you just say, and I say to people in groups, say, yeah, excuse me, would you like some money? And they sort of look at you with a funny look. Say, yeah, I'm giving away money today. And then when I've got a posh wallet which I use for the SOAPBOX, I get that out of my pocket, and I can see the top of them, and I think, bloody hell, he is really giving money. And then when they get it out, they realise it's a fake. But it's got information on the back, but in very small amounts. And if they want to know more, they'll look on the internet. And I think that is the way I'm trying to get it over, but with humour, laughter, comedy. But I've found that a small percentage will just throw the note back at you and say, I don't know what this is, and just wouldn't even know what it is, don't want to look at it,
That's when you hit them,
Well,
Eric. Eric, that's when you hit them, okay?
That's right. Yes.
How would you do that? When you say that's when you hit them, are we on about physical violence there?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
well,
it.
we actually need to watch the self-defense program.
Yeah.
That's why you should need to take a toothbrush with you when you go out talking. Have you thought of that? Because if you saw, was it the Monday before last, I think it was, that was Survival Steve, and he said self-defense, he said, and he got out a toothbrush. And I thought, hang on a minute, he's taking the wee-wees, isn't he? Notice how politely I said it. And he said, no, he said, if you get one which is a bamboo handle, it's particularly hard, and you keep it with you, put that, clench your fist around it and go wallop to hit someone. He said
toothbrush training. You could do it on the street, Eric.
Yes.
Anyway, I've got to interject because we're just coming up to the end of our time slot here on WBN. So we're nearly at the top of the hour. I'm going to sort of do a crossover song as I usually do. We'll play a little bit of music. Thanks everybody for tuning in here on WBN for the last couple of hours. We'll be back again at the same time next week. And if you tune into Ria's show on Sundays, I'm going to be with her in the last hour, which was 2 till 3 in the UK. What's that in? It's 9. Oh, actually, no, it's not. It's weird because our clocks go backwards, don't they? I don't know what's happening with the time. I'm just on the last hour with Ria's show. I think it might start an hour earlier. Might be 5 a.m. start this week. Anyway, we're going to play out with a little bluegrass song. How about that? Because we'll be back. I'll be back here with Nathan and Eric and Etta. If she's still here with us, I hope she is, after this little song.
Say your prayers, little one. Don't forget, my son, to include everyone. Tuck you in, warm within, keep you free from sin till the Sandman he comes. Sleep with one eye open, gripping your pillow tight. Exit light. Enter night. Take my hand, off to Never, Never Land. Something's wrong, shut the light, heavy thoughts tonight, and they aren't of Snow White. Dreams of wars, dreams of liars, dreams of dragons, fire, and the things that will bite. Sleep with one eye open, gripping your pillow tight. Exit light. Enter night. Take my hand. don't say a word. Never mind that noise you heard. Just a beast under your bed. In your closet, in your head. Exit light, enter night, rain of sand. Exit light, enter night, take my hand, off to Never Never Land.
And that was, of course, Enter Sandman by Iron Horse, a song that I think Metallica picked up a little bit later on and did their version of it. I had to say that. So, yeah, anyway, I'm a bluegrass guy at times, and that was one of those times. So there we go. Anyway, welcome back to the last hour of the show here on Rumble and YouTube and Radio Soapbox and Eurofoot Radio and elsewhere and Global Voice Network. We're here with the crew and with Nathan and currently accompanied by Etta, which is nice. Where had we got to? I might want to just change the tack a little bit. One of the things you said early on when you came on, Nathan, we were talking about organizational structures and you talked about religion, which is always fun. And those of us in England may be aware, because I read The Guardian too, of course.
Oh, so you must be an alternative reader then, eh?
I do. I love the Groiniad, which is how it should be pronounced. It's the Groiniad. And this item from today, Thursday, the 23rd of October, this is a fun one. King Charles makes history by praying publicly with Pope Leo. Everybody okay?
I thought he was a Muslim now. Well, that's me. Calling me confused.
Oh, no. Well, are they? I think they're planning to blend them all together into one world religion, you see, because that's obviously what the world needs.
Oh, yeah, new religion, as opposed to none at all, yeah. Do you know what they want to call it?
Did I hear that that was the very first time that King Charles had met with any pope? Isn't that true?
Oh, it's the first time any king since Henry VIII has actually had any formal state connection with the Vatican. Yes.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty significant.
It is. It is. It's fantastic. It's brilliant news if you're into this religion lark, but possibly not. I won't read the whole article. In fact, I shouldn't really read any of it. But I think it is very interesting. They've been moving to all this stuff. I mean, there was some resistance. Came from Northern Ireland, which was the son of Ian Paisley. Do you remember Ian Paisley back in the 70s?
Ian Paisley.
Paisley. Quite a ferocious
he should take
speaker.
you. Good morning, you know. And do you hear about the little fellow in America? Heard about Ian Paisley when he was alive, you see, and he saved up all his money to go to Northern Ireland to listen to Ian Paisley preaching, you see. And eventually he gets the money together and he goes to Ian Paisley's congregation, and Ian Paisley's really laying it on. And the heavens will open up and you'll all be in hell and all this. And this fella's going, oh, brilliant. And he stands up and shouts, hallelujah, praise the Lord. And Ian Paisley shouts back, and we'll have none of that in this church. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, let me read you a little bit about what his son had said. This is taken, of course, from the Groiniad. It says, a prominent Protestant cleric from Northern Ireland said Charles should abdicate. Good grief, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? If he prayed with the Pope. Kyle Paisley, a reverend with the Free Presbyterian Church and son of the late Unionist politician Ian Paisley Sr., told the BBC that the joint prayers would break the king's oath to uphold the Protestant faith. Quote, The Protestant faith, historically and theologically, is a world apart from Catholicism. I don't for the life of me see how he can engage in that kind of corporate worship. I quite like him saying that. Asked if Charles should abdicate if the service went ahead, Paisley said yes, because I don't think he's being true to his oath. Another interesting quirk of all of this, going all the way back to Henry VIII's time, which makes it even sort of dafter, the whole thing. By the way, I'm no fan of either of the churches. They're daft as a brush as far as I'm concerned, the whole lot of them. But Henry VIII was an ardent Catholic. He used to take Mass 6 times a day. This is whilst he was riding and hunting and everything, right? Really into the whole thing until he couldn't get his way and get his marriage annulled. Basically, the Pope said, no way, mate. And then, of course, lots of heads started getting chopped off and all this, that, and the other, right? But what was happening is there was a great attack at the time on the Martin Luther and all these other this force was rising up in Germany, attacking the Catholic Church for what appeared to be good reasons at the time. They probably are good reasons, but I don't want to get enmeshed in all of that. And so Henry was a bit cross about all this, him being an ardent Catholic and everything. So he wrote this like epistle, this huge thing called the Defense of the Faith. And the Pope got a copy, of course, and he thought it was so magnificent. He said, this is the best defense of the faith I've ever read. I'm going to give you a title. I'm going to call you, the monarch of England, the defender of the faith. Now, interestingly, after he split with the Church of Rome, he didn't want to lose that title. And every monarch in England, since Henry VIII up to Charles right now, is known as the defender of the faith.
Yeah.
How about that? This is whacked out.
And
but
but
also,
also,
jobs, a lot of them.
but Henry VIII was never divorced. Did you know that he never divorced?
Yeah, he wanted
He's-
his
he's-
first marriage annulled or something like that.
They were annulled. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And he, yes, right, they were annulled. And I think that was it one of the he was widowed once because one of them died through natural causes. So yeah, it's a bit of a myth that he was divorced. He didn't divorce. That's it. He was annulled. So there we go.
Yeah.
Not many people know that.
Not a lot of people know that. No, they don't.
That's right. Yeah.
They don't
But
know
I
that.
still think Charles Lawton was the best one acting in King Henry VIII, but throwing chicken legs over his shoulder. Remember that
Yes, I do.
in the film?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Very good. Very good he was at that. He's also very good with an ump, wasn't he? He had the ump a lot. He was the hunchback of Notre Dame. Bloody good actor.
Well, interestingly, I didn't know he was going to do that this week, but I was listening. We had Eli on, didn't we, last week?
That's right.
And it was a cracking show, and I've spoken to Eli since briefly. He really enjoyed himself as well, and he has promised, Eric, to come on at some point in a few weeks' time and do a Vietnam special for you. Okay.
Oh, I'll look
He
forward to
sent me
that.
a message. I said, Eric will be happy. He'll be very happy about that. So we'll cover that. We'll get some scriptural stuff in as well, but he's quite happy to come on and do some more Vietnam anecdotes and give you his insights about that. I think it was a big part of his life in the sense that he really understood that war was being fought to be lost intentionally, but that's for when we get him on next time.
Yes.
Could we not get him onto Chris's show as well? Would he not go on to Eric Von Essex?
I can ask him. He's a very busy guy. He's out and about, in real life, meeting people, spreading his message and communicating people just in much the same way that we are. So, but yeah, I'll speak to him about that. And
many
just
thanks.
as a reminder, he's on Radio SOAPBOX,
Thanks,
by the way,
Nathan.
every Sunday at 3:00 till 4:30. And if you're into learning more about that aspect of things, he's as good a source as I know of. He's brilliant, very lively guy, as you can tell from the show that we had with him last week. It's amazing for a guy that's had a quintuple heart bypass, so it's astonishing, really. But there you go. Anyway, he was reading from a website, an article from a website on his show this Sunday, and I happened to be listening to it. I sometimes sort of join him on Sundays if I've digested all the roast beef. You know what I'm talking about, Eric? Okay, so everything's gone down nice
Yes.
and properly. And he was reading from a website called wickedshepherds.com. And there is an article there, the main article that's gone up relatively recently, which is about the distortion of the church, or the church's distortions. And it's quite brilliant. Now, I don't want to go, the thing's quite long. I've spent the last few days reading it. It's about 60, 80 pages long, something like that. But I want to talk briefly about William Tyndale. This is just amazing stuff. Basically, the aim of the article, and so you would have to read it to take your own view. I know what mine is. I'm not here to sell you that necessarily right now, although I want to. But what he's basically saying is the word church does not appear in Scripture at all, which might be a surprise to you all, but it doesn't appear once. It's not in there. But if you go and read the King James Version of the Bible, you will find it in there all over the place. Now, William Tyndale, who is not known as much as he ought to, because this is a real hero of English resolve. Talk about asking questions. Tyndale translated the Bible alone, solo, in the early 1500s, right? Before and during Henry's reign, right? In the early 1500s. And he wasn't liked for it very much. That's putting it mildly. Because it was forbidden to actually communicate those documents in English. And some of the stories that are embedded within the essay are horrific. For example, a woman and her children, who she had been teaching Scripture to in English, they were all burnt at the stake for doing that. This is before Tyndale had finished the full translation. Just to give you an idea. Right. Anybody who thinks the Church of England is absolutely no, I don't think so. They've all got skeletons in their closet, and that's a bad one. But Tyndale basically had enough of being preached to, as it were, by all the people in the hierarchy, the organizational corporate structure, to use quote Paisley. He'd had enough of this. And I think one of his phrases is, I'm going to translate the Bible so that the ploughboy of England will know more about Scripture than the high prelates and the priests, which is fantastic, right? Unfortunately for him, this didn't go down too well with the authorities. So he lived the last few years of his life, I don't know what I mean by few, it was quite a lot of them, in Holland, skulking around all over the place. As he continued to translate it, he did complete a complete translation of the New Testament and was well on with the Old Testament, but could not get round to do it because a pal of his invited him over for a Sunday lunch at some house in Holland, where he was sprung upon by 6 agents of the clergy from over here, or the power structure of the church. They threw him in prison for 18 months, and then they strapped him to a stake with loads of wood around it, and the executioner throttled him to death. Strangled him. What kind of an execution is that? So throttled him to death. Then they set fire to him in front of a gallery of all of these priests that had come over from England. I was going to say flown over, but they didn't have jets or aeroplanes back then, but they'd come over for the whole purpose. It's an excellent article. It's really, if you want to do more tunneling into this, because what it's talking about is the same organizational disease that we have in politics and elsewhere that we've been touching upon here. These things get carried away. It's as if the intermediaries, and that we don't need any, this is the whole thing. Scripture doesn't talk about an intermediary priestly class at all. There's not one bloody word in there about it. It's about a totally different arrangement. I think I've mentioned this before on this show. What we're doing here, talking freely, congregating and discussing things, is exactly the instruction set from Scripture. But not a lot of people know that. They think you've got to go to a church and all this. And this is an absolute tirade, an absolute massively, wonderfully critical article about that, about why there's literally no authority for them to behave in the way that they do. And so bringing it full circle to today, I think Paisley's view of it being corporate is true. I'm not here to defend any of them, because they're all basically, they're like fan clubs that have got beyond their station and have made themselves the object of everybody's attention, whereas in fact, and that's why they don't teach anybody any truth from it. I just thought I'd let you know. And doesn't government operate in the same way? Keeps you stupefied? Be loyal to the government, otherwise you're a bad person. All that kind of stuff. So just thought I'd throw that in.
Well, let's look at that then, shall we? Because what is it that the government and the church or religion or the priestly authorities all have in common? What is it that they capitalise on?
Your stupidity.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure stupidity is the right word. I would say maybe a bit. Now, hold on a sec, mate. Naivety as opposed to stupidity. I'm not sure.
Well, they've kept people stupid. I mean, if you think about the people of England, right? They couldn't actually access the documents because they weren't in English. They were compelled to go to these places called churches to be told what it was. And when they were there, they were compelled to put money on the plate. For example, I think if you go back to the original documents, there's a strict command that nobody gets paid for this, ever. Think about that. You can't set yourself up as a pastor or whatever you want and get money for gobbing off about what you think is in the book. It's completely out of order. It's totally against the actual instruction set. Well, they're not likely to tell you that, are they? They're not likely. And there's nothing about fancy pews or singing. And I don't know what it was like for you if you've ever went to church as a kid. I did. I think you did, Eric, didn't you? I have often said... But my
I still do,
instincts
by the way. I do attend churches. I've just over the years various churches, and I'm not a traditional. I don't think I can't feel comfortable calling myself a Christian. But I know that you say that. But at the same time, I'm not a Christian. But I'm a Christian in the esoteric sense of the word, the true sense of it. But I still attend churches.
I'm in agreement with
fascinating
you.
Places
Because. And I think I understand what I understand what you're saying. When you say that to people, are you a Christian? What people hear is, do I attend a church? Well, if you read the documents, you're not told to do that. So if you don't attend one, you're much more likely to be a Christian than those that do. Seriously, I'm not making this stuff up. It's so, and we look at the money stuff. We're talking to people about money and usury, any of these topics. The reason why people are controllable is that we've not been given the correct, truthful information by design.
Exactly.
That's why that's what I meant by the word stupid. We have been bred to be stupid in the face of certain bodies of information so that we're very, very easy to control. No, you go and talk to the priest about that. And as a kid, I was going, why? What's he know? I can read it. I'll do it myself, thanks very much. I never invited you to act as an intermediary. And that's what they've done. They've set themselves up. And the whole... There's so much stuff in there. There's an absolute... In the scriptures, there's a total tirade against this sort of nonsense. This is the very thing that most of the teachings in the scriptures are about. They're saying, this is what you don't do. You don't do any of this stuff.
Because they cherry pick, mate. A lot of them, even in seminary school and things like this, they are told to cherry pick certain phrases, certain bits of the Bible to preach, but they're also told what not to like disclose to the public. They're also told what to avoid disclosing, right? You don't say this bit from that book because it'll contradict that bit from that book, or because it'll contradict, it'll cause too many people asking questions, and they'll want to know why that was okay there, but it's not okay. It's things like that. But going back, so again, my issue is not with Christianity. It's nothing to do with the spiritual nature of this stuff. My issue is with religion, as in the organized body that is cherry picking, nitpicking, and controlling. So I asked just then. I said, what have they all got in common, like religion and politics? They offer it, right. So first of all, they take away your sovereignty, right? This is the first thing they do. It's like, right, there is a higher power than you. You're at the bottom of the pyramid. Know your place. Get on your knees and look up. Well, if you're looking up at somebody, they're automatically looking down on you. So you have then subjected yourself to what is now an authority, right? So both politics, religion, and even money. Again, the three basic psyops, the three fundamental psyops of all time. They've all got authority figures, and these authority figures use things like fear, ignorance, and by ignorance, I'm literally meaning ignorance, right? Which is to ignore information, to ignore signs, to ignore symbols, to ignore knowledge, so they use that against you, which is why I say it's probably more a case of keeping people in the dark as opposed to them being stupid. It's more about naivety and not knowing because you've not had access to certain information, things like that. So you've got, and the third one, so you've got fear, right? And they capture, again, going back to what we were saying earlier about fear, it's one hell of a motivator. But it's one hell of a step down. So it's a way of keeping you in your place. If you don't do this in our policy, if you don't do this according to Scripture, you're going to go to hell. You're going to go to prison, or you're going to, right. There's always a punishment, right? So then we're using reinforcements. Do this and we'll reward you, or don't do that and you'll be punished. And this is what they've all got in common. It's a control system. It's a control grid, right? I don't have a problem with spirituality. Not at all. And I would consider a lot of the aspects of many religions in the world to be spiritual at their core. And I've got no problem with that because I think there's an underlying, trunk of truth going through all of them. There is. I mean, otherwise it would never work in the first place. But it's the construct, it's the mechanism of control and authority. And that's what I've got the problem with. Because as soon as you give your power away, and I think we discussed this the other day, you're giving away your independence, your autonomy, you're giving away your free thought, you're giving away your critical thinking, you're giving away your questioning ability and all these things to somebody that has a perceived elevation above you. It's not right. That's my issue with it. And so, talking about churches, come together and discuss and be spiritual and try and connect with the God force of the universe and things like this. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to of punishment. And that's not the right way to do things. Avoiding questions, avoiding certain information is not the right way of doing it. But equally, the reason I do attend churches, and I won't say which one I'm at the minute. It's very interesting. The people there are lovely. I would actually say it was one of the better ones, actually. But I've been to Jehovah's Witness churches. I've been to halls, if you want to call it, how they refer to it.
Yeah.
Just various, even local churches that have been set up in. I think there was one here about 4 years ago that was set up in a community centre at night time. There seems to be a lot of that going around where they're doing it in community centres, which is a shame because there's a lot of church buildings going empty, and I actually like the buildings. I think it adds
the buildings
to
are
that
fantastic, but that's part of the problem as well. I've got two hats on here. First of all, I agree with you. The buildings are wonderful.
Nice.
They took a lot of money to build those things, and good things came out of that. So the workmanship, the actual quality and architecture of the buildings is great. But what was the purpose behind it?
Beautiful.
It's to enthrall people more fully to a binding in religious system.
Yeah.
And the three things that you touched upon there, which we talk about all the time: government, banking, and religion. Most of those, as far as we know, although it's probably even more ancient than this, but their origin is in Babylon. Babylon is known for the development of usury and banking practice, for the religious structure systems and priesthoods. For all of this kind of stuff. And therefore, that thing I was saying about half an hour ago, that they've got access to knowledge that's ancient about how to crowd control. This is where it's all come from. So there's this intermediary class. You've got to listen to Bob. He's read it better than you. Everybody else shut up.
Yeah.
Whereas what Scripture actually says is, no, everybody gets to talk. You all talk. And someone's a guide, but they're not like the official thing. What's that got to do with it? I don't know I've always said, look, I'm not inviting you to tell me what it is. I want to read it myself and make my own mistakes. And if I get stuck, I'll come and ask you, but not as a priest, as a bloke that I know, right? You're a bloke. Yeah. And it talks about things like no titles, no titles at all.
Yeah, because what happens when you put titles in the mix? You're creating a matrix. You're creating a power matrix. You're creating a pyramid scheme where there's always somebody above you. And again, it's perceived helplessness. It's perceived ignorance. It's perceived, inferiority, I guess. So you're right. Why should there be a priest, a learned person who knows the book better than you, or knows, or has a vast amount of information that you can turn to and say, well, how does that work? Yeah, fair enough. But for somebody to claim to be the authority over it, it's a bit suspicious to me. That is.
Me too, and I think it breeds that culture. So that you see, it's not how much you know. It's if you're in discussion with someone about anything, It seems to me that a key part of that, in terms of being gracious and kindly to the other person, is to provide them, to the best of your ability, with what we were just talking about an hour ago, to get them questioning it. That's the whole thing, isn't it? Yep. And you go, so I say, look, I'm really stuck on this bit. What does that mean? You go, well, I think it means this, but so-and-so's got a different view. Let's go and talk to him. There isn't an official thing. The truth will come out in terms of the attitude and relationship between the people inquiring into it. That's what's fantastic about anything, whether it's Scripture or how the government operates, or that the law is crooked, or that the banking system's crap. Everybody's going, no, this is an expert. Whoa, hang on, just a minute. Who says he's an expert? But then you make your own evaluation with what people say. And all of these things are interlinked. So I think the observation you made that
Yep.
religion is the oldest one in terms of control is absolutely true, because you've got this mystery in everybody's hearts. What am I?
Yeah.
Where is this place? Is it flat? Is it
Yep.
round? I know they've just been having a discussion about that. What shape is it? Are the stars really there? On and on and on and on and on it goes.
Where do
But
we
it's-
come from? Where did it all
Yeah.
start? What's it all about? What's the purpose of it? Why? Right? There's so many questions, and okay, maybe we never get the answers to some of them, or at least in this realm. Doesn't mean we shouldn't investigate it. Doesn't mean that it's asking these questions that gets you to think about the other
Absolutely.
things that are attached to them. Can I just sorry? There's a comment just a little bit further up by Truth is Our Reality. I've got a little anecdote here. He said that's the energy that you feel when you go into an old church. So I think it was about 15 years ago. So I was going through an atheistic. I was an atheist 15 years ago, basically, and I went to Pisa, in Italy, the Leaning Tower and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Now the tower itself didn't bother me. I was just like, well, it's a tower. It's leaning. I'm not paying to go in there. But anyway, right next to it, which is what a lot of people tend to miss, is a massive cathedral, and it's a beautiful building from the outside. But I walked in, and I just looked up, and I said to the people that were with me, now I get it. Now I get why people would go into a cathedral or a church and be absolutely overwhelmed, because you're looking around at the architecture of this thing, of the artwork in it, the architecture, the masonry, the acoustics, the size of it, all of the stuff that's in there, even the symbolism on the walls, the cloth, the books, right, and the smells that go with it. I mean, my God, you walk into that and it's like, right, now I get why people fall for this. Right now I understand, because it is. I mean, it's beautiful. Again, I don't have a problem with churches and cathedrals, things like that. In fact, I love going into them most of the time, especially the old ones. But it's overwhelming almost, and you do get that sense of, wow, there's something here. There's some connection to spirit. There's some connection to God here, right? And but if you can then capitalize on that and then lead, what do they call it? Leading the flock, then that's the bit that I've got a problem with. Well, who's leading me?
I think
Where
you're
they're
right
leading me?
to.
If I'm a sheep.
Yeah.
But sorry, just to finish that up. If I'm part of the flock, then that makes me a sheep. And if I'm a sheep, then I'm following. Where am I being led to? Because lambs generally get led to the slaughter, don't they, by the shepherds?
I think that's why that website's called Wicked Shepherds, because that's what it's about.
Interesting.
Because power corrupts, and they get power in the priestly class, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? To paraphrase Lord Acton, which is spot on. And we've got this in all these man-made structures. But how about this? Let's suppose we were around 500 years ago. I mean, we won't be talking like this because this technology didn't exist. You and I probably couldn't even read and write. We'd be looking after sheep or pigs all week, or planting crops, or putting shoes on horses, or whatever we did, getting by, making barrels. We're doing that stuff. Once a week, you go into that place. It'd be mind-blowing. It'd be mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Right? It would put you in thrall. You would go into a different state of consciousness. And what they're doing is they're harvesting that and not giving you the full deal. So when you think about Tyndale, and I do, he's a bloke out there, goes to Oxford, very bright, right, really bright guy, and he goes, this is wrong. I've read this, because he could read it in the original Greek and the Hebrew. I've read this. People need to know this directly. The ploughboy of England needs to, so that he, the ploughboy, as he goes through life, can ask his own questions. What's that a threat to? Wicked shepherds. Yeah. It's basically the sheep saying, hey, thanks, but I don't need you anymore. And they've done everything they can to stop you leaving their conditioned flock. And that's what governments are doing. Every single one of them do this. It's the same.
But then what else did they do? Here's another one that so again, money, church and state. There's another thing that they do as well, and this one's a bit tricky to once you spot it, you'll spot it. They create polarizing dialectics, right? There's always an enemy. There's always another side that we don't like, right? There's always, we are this, and therefore the other side. So then that's basic psychology. That's hacking basically psychology. That's putting you into what's referred to as splitting or mental, like cognitive myopia and things like that. It's creating us and them, red and blue, which look at the cover of my book, that's deliberate. That's a polarizing dialectic. There's always a red and there's always a blue because they're the opposite end of the spectrum, and they're always fighting one another. And yet, if you again look at it from an above perspective, and you've got the puppet master, right? That's go up and look down, and you'll see what they can see. And then you'll start to see how they do it, why they do it. And it's you mentioned there about a priest class knowing this stuff and using it against us, and but in Babylon and things, they were ancient psychologists, right? The one thing that they do is tap into psychology, and once you've figured that out, you can control society, you can control individuals, you can put them in cults. It's very, very clever. I'm looking at the comment there. Look at the color of my walls. You leave my walls alone. Red and blue. Yeah, I've got red and blue walls in my bedroom, and I bloody love them, and they're great. But do you know what though? It has I'm completely segueing. The red and the blue, it has a strange effect on consciousness. It puts you in, if it's balanced correctly, it puts you into a calm, alert state. And that sounds contradictory, but it's very deliberate. If you can contrast the red and the blue in a good balance, you can get both sides of your brain working simultaneously. And I've done this for a reason. If you can balance it out, it's interesting things happen. But you look at how red and blue are used throughout society. The news, especially, look at the news and the media and things like that. Look at supermarkets. Look at political parties. Look, I mean, geez, it's everywhere. Red and blue, red and blue, red and blue. And I know there's other colours used by corporations and stuff, but just look at the prominence of the red and blues out there, and it is mind blowing. It's very, very telling.
It is. They create an adversarial condition which they thrive off as the middlemen. It's the middlemen that are doing. They need that conflict to earn their living. They need you to be in a state of off-balancedness. You start reading it directly, they can't do it as well. This is why they went crazy and strangled Tyndale. And it's important coming through to the King James Bible in this particular example, because he, having read it, did not put the word church in his translation once, because it's not in there, because it's not a Hebrew or Greek word. It doesn't exist, right? The actual word is assembly or congregation, a gathering. That's what we've assembled here behind microphones, right? This is what we're doing. That's what I'm trying to get. It's not this. There is a mystical aspect to it, but if you don't get the basics right, like how do you run the meetings, you're stuffed. I mean, when it first got started, right, after Christ's death, they were basically like we are right now. There were clubs, let's call them that, all over France particularly, and in Switzerland and all of these places, who were getting together and discussing this stuff. This is before Constantine rocked up and basically politicized and nationalized it. Yeah. That's what he did. He turned it into this power structure. They moved the services into these big buildings that the Romans... And then you've got this whole heritage of these magnificent buildings, which we love. But they were to project state power across the peasant's head. Yeah. And it works. That's why it's all there, right? They get all this money. They come, they rob you, they take all your money. They put up a big building, and then they control your mind for the rest of your life. And you can't ask any questions about it. So Tyndale refused to put the word church in. Would not do it. Absolutely refused to do it because he says it's not in there. So he was brought before a sort of gathering of local bishops who basically got very heavy with him, but they released him with a warning that he should never, ever do that. And he didn't. He said, stick it up your backside. And he went off and did it right. He did it right. This is why he came to grief. This is why he's one of these guys that nobody talks about much, and you won't get much talk about him from the church system, because he's the guy that basically began to prise it open for the people, because he said, hey, this is supposed to go direct, just like supposedly democracy is, right? And all these other systems that they've come up with. These are just the front end to get you suckered in. Oh, I live in a free and I've got the vote and all this kind of stuff, without seeing the results of it. And the results are that
democracy,
you're not...
Yeah, I was just going to say, all democracy means is mob rule.
Mm-hmm.
So is it mob as in the plebs and the people, or is it mob as in gangsters and mob rule? You're being mobbed. It's just. I mean, they tell you they're using the language, and some people say spelling, and it's word magic, spelling, stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely, they've been using this against us for millennia.
I know.
They're experts at it. I mean, they really, really are.
Yeah, because they don't get any opposition. They've got the wealth and everything. They get bodyguards, literally, but also psychological bodyguards now, which means people don't speak up in meetings. So this is another thing about church services. Only one guy gets to speak. What's that all about? I want to hear what that bloke sat over there says. I don't want to hear you every week. Right? Why do I want to hear you every week? You know a bit of stuff. Fine, fair enough. Why you every? Because I went to a seminary and learned all this stuff. I don't give a crap about that. That's me as a kid.
I'd tell you, I'd love to do that. If somebody said to me, well, "We're going to put you through seminary school. We're going to fund you, and you can go through seminary school, and you can be educated as a priest or a preacher or something like," I'd do it. My God, I'd do it, and I'd put all my effort into it just to see, and I'd be respectful to it. I wouldn't be I'd do it respectfully, but I'd want to learn from it. I'd want to know everything. I want to know what they know, so that when I come out, I can say, when they do that thing or when they say that, what they're not telling you is bang, bang, bang. Right?
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. And just to sorry, the comments are coming thick and fast again. I like it when it does that. But Steve, Sixblade, and he's a good friend of mine.
Yes. Hi, Steve. Yep.
So he's just said there, religion translates to hold back. So religare in the Latin is to bind back, right? It actually, if we look at it from another perspective, it's to rebind back, right? It's to hold you back from progress. It's to keep you in chains. It's to keep you in your place, peasant. It's that kind of mentality. Know your place. You are not the top of the pyramid. You are not the patriarchy. You are not the church authorities. You are not the Senate, etc., etc., etc. And again, like church, like the word church, I think it comes from Kirk, doesn't it? I think it's a Scottish word, Kirk.
I think it originally meant circle, because gatherings would take place in circles.
From
and all that kind of
Kirk. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
We've all grown up with them everywhere, and you didn't question it at this level of detail when you were 10. And if it not been for someone like Tyndale and others, nobody ever would have. I mean, when they were putting the King James Bible together, right? James insisted that the word church went in. So he didn't. That's why it's got the word church in it all over the place. Shouldn't be in there. Why? Because someone's got to be the head of it, right? Who would that be? Oh, James. Oh, that's nice. Isn't that neat? And then he can control all these priestly classes. This stuff, the actual reading of scripture, is a warning against this stuff. But people go, oh, you don't want to read that Bible thing because you're going to end up going to a church. And you go, holy moly. You see how it gets? That's not what he says. But because nobody could read it back then, because it's all in bloody Latin, you had to go listen to some bloke who'd been, this, that, and the other. And this dynamic here, just in this arena, is exactly the same dynamic in politics. It's in banking. We end up with these self-appointed elites that have assumed authority over the whole thing. They go through all these training systems where they learn their obedience to the power structure because they're okay with that. They're going to be in charge of it and get paid well and get to talk a lot, and their egos get fed. And this is the very stuff that the scriptures warns against. You don't have any titles, right? None of you forget all that kind of stuff. And is this not what we fight against? Is spiritual wickedness in high places. The high place, one of the things I used to say as a kid, I did say this when I was really young, when I was about 14, I'd say, if you were the devil, if you go for that, just this as an analogy, right? Where would you hang out? Yep. I go, where would you hang out? You'd hang out in the last place anybody would think of looking. Where's that? Church. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? You'd sit there, it's soft kill, it's nudging. They've nudged for 2,000 years. And everybody's become accustomed to this. And government have been nudging us with democracy for 400 years or however long this garbage has been going around. And all it is, state and church are the same thing. And they're both
bad. I give you another example?
Yep.
Can I give you another one, which is in the same vein, right? Heaven and hell. Yes. Heaven and hell, right? So Christians think that there's a heaven in the afterlife and there's a hell in the afterlife, right? Nowhere in the Bible, Old Testament or New, does it mention heaven or hell is a place. Heaven or hell, and look, anyone can read the Gospels and confirm this, right? The Jewish, the Old Testament, things like that, there was Sheol. In other words, when you die, they put you in the ground, in a hole in the ground, right? That's Sheol or Hades, as in they put you on the ground, they bury you, right? That's it. That's the afterlife. They put you in the ground, they put you in the earth. Heaven and hell, correctly interpreted from all scripture, Old Testament and New Testament, is a state of mind. It's a perception. It's how you project your mind out. And Jesus, many times, they provide you with the solution. The solution to what you're looking for is to change your perception, right? You don't want to go to hell, which is very good advice. Change your perception. Change the way you think. What is he saying? Be critical in your thoughts, right? Be mindful of your thoughts. Go out there and employ care and compassion and things like that. Yes, but also be critical. You know, he didn't get the reputation that he got by being non-critical. You know, I'm just thinking of the money changes and overturning the tables. That was a bit critical, wasn't it? That was a bit. Do you know what I mean? So you know, there's things like this, and just like the word church has been added into what did it come through in the Vulgate or something like that? I think it was added, and then the King James version after that.
Yep.
I'm not certain of that. But
it's
anyway.
a great way to control your congregation to get them fearful of stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's just it's not that those conditions don't exist, but they amplify it for their own ends. And I agree. It's like directions. You create a hellish day or you create a heavenly one. And if you're in charge, you'll learn from that. You go, oh God, I'm getting my ass kicked again, but I bloody well deserve it because I've sloped off. I went to sleep. I decided to not pay attention. I just thought I'd just, eat some cookies instead of actually dealing with what I was supposed to do. That's one of my problems, right? Cookies get in the way. But it's the case. And the thing about, you mentioned Jehovah's Witnesses. I was talking about it last week or something. I think I was. I actually bumped into some the other day. And I thought, well, they're always knocking on my door. And they were down on the seafront. So you didn't hear the show. So I thought, I'm going to knock on yours, metaphorically. So I sat down, had a chat with them.
Oh, they'd have loved that, though. They want you to do that. You just fall straight into their
I loved
trap.
it. I had a different hat on, right? I didn't go in there all steaming and all that. I put a different hat on. I go, right, I'm going to play a different role now. It's like an actor. Yeah. You got to do it.
It's like when you were on about the reform thing. You're going to go to the meetings. I guess that's what I do with the churches because of I want to see how it works, how they're doing it, how they're using psychology to.
We're spies. We're going in there to research. This is what they do to us, right? Yeah. You got to go in and suss out why they're thinking the way they're thinking and why they can't see the results of what we consider currently today to be poor thinking, and it's because they're not examining their thinking. They don't question it. They just go, it's there. And I got the line from one of them. They said, well, Jesus said he loves everyone. I said, well, he doesn't love moneylenders, does he? I said, he whipped them. I said, you ever whipped a banker? And she started laughing. This woman said, no. I said, well, if you're on for it, I'll give it a go with you. I'll join you. Let's get up there and let's just get some whips and let's get to it. Because I said, we'd be, you want to be in favor of God? He'll smile upon you for doing that. I said, because these, it's all a different aspect of it. Money, your spirit with the religion thing, the law, these are the rules. They're all man-made. What's the thing that Christ bangs on about? Rightly so. He's attacking those that are basically put all their loyalty in the traditions of men. Well, that's what we're talking about here. This is a tradition.
Caesar's authority, basically.
Absolutely. He said, you can't hear what I'm saying because you're not my sheep. You don't understand this because you've not got to a point of basically casting off this man-made crap. Right, which is causing all the problems. You'll never see it. And they go, well, no, we're priests. We get paid loads of money. Why would we? Exactly.
Well, hold on. Then here's another one for you. Then, right? Again, sorry. This is not an attack on Christianity. This is an attack on the church. It's an attack on that system, right? What is it that he says repeatedly? That you can only come through the Father through sorry, I'm pickling the words now. No one comes to the Father except through me, right? Yeah. So where do the priestly class get the idea that they then can represent God? Look at the the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, right? He's God's representative on earth. Well, hang on a minute. That's not what was said. I don't recognize your authority, Mr. Pope, because that is not what I'm about, right? If I seek Christ, I'm not going to go to your church and your authorities and your mitre wearing. Well, I've got to be careful what I say. I'm going to offend the bloody church now, but. Again, it's things that have been massively taken out of context and usurped. It's been usurped. I think we'll go for that one.
Completely accurate in my view. I have to keep tagging that on there, but I think it's just about getting. If Tyndale's a good one for everybody. I've got a little booklet of his to download where he attacks all the priests. I can't wait to read it. It's about 100 pages and I haven't got it yet, but I'm gonna go into that because he's awesome. I mean, he also wrote this thing where he said the Hebrew and the Greek agreeth with the English 1,000-fold more than doth the Latin.
Oh,
it's got nothing. You see, my view of it's the Roman thing is the Roman Empire. Instead of centurions, they just basically morphed into a psychological conditioning system, and they used. Constantine said, I mean, when they had the thing, he said it's going to be like I say it again. Who the hell are you? Who the bloody hell? Bugger off. We're not interested. And that's why they had to do it. And then they rope everybody in. It's a bit like with software, right? And the internet. I'm serious, right? If you think about the early days of the internet, everybody was doing their own thing. It was brilliant, right? News groups, email groups, the lot. Just completely wide open. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Now, all these companies have come in and go, we are the official deliverers of email. Or your email's unsafe. You're a threat to everybody else. The whole fear conditioning has come in. Now, it's morphed to exactly where they want it to. You need an ID, a digital ID, which we've secretly been building in the background all the time to be able to exist on this system, which was given to everybody freely in the 90s, and they've now decided that it's theirs. And this is the same thing with Christ's teachings given to everybody that's got ears to hear, and they go, oh, no, you actually need us because we've read it better than you, and it needs to be like this, and you need to pay us for it as well, and I need a big hat, and we're going to sing songs and all this other stuff, which will get you not thinking about what's actually in the documents. So people don't know what it is. They don't even know what it is. Their instruction manual, they don't even read it. What's the bloody point of having it if you can't read it? It's amazing. But it's true in so many areas.
But then that was the idea, wasn't it? You can't confute their tongues and confuse the life out of people. You know, it's things like that they know that works. And I mean, speaking about the internet, though, just segueing off again, I mean, I think the whole idea is, you're right, it was brilliant in the beginning because there was free thought, there was free ideas, there was, creativity. Then the big companies come in. Again, I'm going to use the word usurped. Again, it's not like it was deliberate or anything. It definitely was. Everything is now commercialized and compartmentalized and censored, right? So as much as, I mean, we're on a platform. I like YouTube. I don't like the company. I don't like Google. I don't like Alphabet. I don't like what they're doing. I don't like the censorship. I do like the access to the information with it being easily accessible. And there's a lot of crap out there, but equally, there's still a lot that you can learn from platforms like this. But the more it becomes censored, the less access to information we've got, the less enlightened we become. And I've got a massive problem with that, especially when they're now effectively selling it to us, right? They're selling us censorship and we're buying into it. They sell us antiviruses for viruses that the operating system creators produced so that they could sell you an extra product to reinforce their existing product, right? This is not... These things don't happen by accident. They are all planned well in advance. They know that the internet was going to be successful if they could get people invested into it. So all of the website designers came in, all of these small corporations, and there's still a fair amount out there. Just unfortunately, they're shadow banned. They're difficult to find, and we're told that it's dangerous if it doesn't have a lock on the search screen and stuff like that. It's exactly the same principle as what we're talking about with statism and religion and money and all of the rest of it. They've took something, they've got people invested into it, and then they bring in the big boys, and then they're like, oh, well, for your safety, we have to do that, and for your security, we'll just bring in these measures. And don't worry, we know that it's a problem having 6,000 different password and log on things. So now we're going to get you hooked on your phone to give you a one-time password that you can't log on without. It's ridiculous. I could go on and on and on about this because it drives me up the bloody wall. Where did people think this was going to end up? Of course, it was going to lead to digital IDs. That was the whole point. That's what it's been structured around. Of
course.
I mean,
yeah. It has. We've had a good run. We've had a very good run for our money, and we wouldn't be having this conversation if it hadn't been for that initial period of being able to connect people with all this stuff. And some of us, many of us, have used the internet really for what I always thought it was, which was to tunnel into this hitherto hidden information and start to go, bloody hell, I don't know what's going on. And in other words, people like us and the listeners here are people, I guess, in the main, are prepared to say, you know what? Yesterday I was an idiot. I didn't know this stuff. I'm prepared to be wrong. I'm prepared to be.
Brilliant.
I'm okay.
Again,
you prove me wrong, and you'll be doing me a favor because I don't want to be stupid. And if you can educate me out of my stupidity, thank you very much. That's a different attitude. Most people go, "No, I'm right. You can't tell me anything." You go, "Well, you're right. That's going to come true," and you're stuck at that level of intelligence forever.
We've discussed this before, though.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but it's all right. So, well, okay. I think Etta mentioned this as well. Prove me wrong, right? Which is great. That's brilliant. What's wrong with being wrong? Right. Do we not learn from mistakes? Is that not how learning is a difficult thing, right? If it's not difficult, you're not doing it right, in my opinion. That if you're doing it the lazy way, you're not really learning. You're not challenging yourself. I used to be afraid of being wrong because it's, I'm going to get embarrassed. I have to be right. Well, hang on a minute. If you take the mindset of I cannot be wrong because me bad or me embarrassed, okay, well then you're not going to learn anything, are you? Really, you've stunted your own growth at that point. I don't mind being wrong because it leads to better outcomes, because then I can learn from that. And this is the thing that everybody, especially in the truth movement, needs to get their heads around. It's okay to be wrong. It's not a crime, right? It's not we've got to get over this. And I know we've discussed this in previous shows as well, mate. And I think it's absolutely right. But isn't that all part of the whole process of critical thinking, learning, and evolving? Isn't that the whole point?
Yeah, I totally agree. And also to admit that you may not know, that you don't know the answer, but you're willing to find out.
Brilliant.
Or if whatever evidence they may want to provide, you'll consider, look it up, and then you could come back and say, you know what, you were right. And people it gives you, the person who's admitting, hey, I may not know everything, it gives you more credibility when you're open to say, okay, yeah, I may not agree with you on 99% of what you're saying, but that 1%, you are correct. I agree with you on that, or whatever,
If you've got humility and honesty, and you're genuine, and your integrity pokes through, if you can prove that you've learned from your mistakes, everyone makes mistakes, everyone screws up, everyone's got a past, right? Okay, we're all human, but it's okay because we're all in that boat together, literally, right?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
so then. And so, I mean, the points that you've raised tonight have been absolutely fantastic. And again, if people can just get their heads around that, we can turn this around.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. I just want to let you know my phone's going to die, so I do have to go. But it was great meeting you.
Thank you for joining us, by the way.
Lovely to have you with us, Ed. You're welcome anytime.
Thanks.
Anytime to drop by.
Thank you for having me on, Paul. Okay. All right.
Brilliant.
Take care,
Thanks,
you guys.
Shota.
Yeah,
You too.
take care.
Fantastic.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye for now. Bye-bye.
So that was good. I like that. I like it when we get people to join in, because it adds like another dimension to the conversation. It's nice to get a bit of insight as well. So that was brilliant.
Yeah, it means we can get to be wrong about things, which is good. Maybe the phrase is it's right to be wrong, and something like that. But it's as if the complications that are given to us by priestly classes, whether in the field of religion or democracy, so-called, and politics and banking, are intentionally complicated so that you can't understand it. I mean, if you want to talk to people about banking, you just watch the blood drain from their face. I don't blame them. Anybody that's even looked at economics papers and what they're talking about, you're going, what the bloody hell's all this about? Well, it's a justification for their continued salaries. We need brainier and brainier people to keep overcomplicating the issue. There isn't a problem with the economy. There's a problem with the banking system. Whoever talks about that? No one.
Yeah.
When? Never.
Just before sorry, I know we've got about 6 minutes left.
We got 6 minutes to go.
Can I bring something else up, which it's linked into all
Please
of this,
do.
which is AI. It's AI, right? And so again, it's like technology. Technology is not the problem. It's who's using it and what it's being used for and how it's being used against us. That's the problem, not the technology in and of itself. And it's the same with AI, right? AI is not the problem. It's what it's being used for, and it's how it's being used. And so what I'm going to say here is we talk a lot about critical thinking and mind traps and the psychology behind all this, and we're looking at psyops. Okay, that's great. What are we doing with AI? And, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, people like David Icke were saying, they're going to bring in AI and it's going to do your thinking for you. And people are like, no, that's not going to happen. What are you doing, people? Right? Chat GPT, okay, I see the benefits of it, but unfortunately now everything is I'm just going to ask the AI, I'm going to ask Alexa, I'm going to ask Chat GPT, I'm going to ask blah 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 blah. Right? It's doing your thinking for you, right? And it's like, I can produce an AI book and publish it overnight. Well, that's very nice, but you're not thinking, and it's not really an intellectual property. You're not making any strides forwards. That's not a good thing, right? Fine, get statistics and stuff from AI. I don't mind that, but people are now relying heavily on AI for answers.
But aren't they like the people, Nathan, that have relied heavily on guidance from human authority systems?
Yeah,
you see,
exactly,
I think it's an attitudinal thing. Certainly with me, it's like I ain't listening to no one who says that they're my boss. That's it.
Yeah.
Sorry, but I'll talk to you as an equal, even if I'm the thicker of the two communicators. I don't mind being thick, but if you won't let me ask questions, I've never used an AI. I don't even know where it is.
Well, I've used
I still think email's the best thing
once.
since sliced bread. That's how completely wonky I am. What's the point of it? I saw something today about the damage that people are getting sucked in. There was a guy testifying in the States that his son had been talking to this chat GPT thing that or whatever it was, one of them, it got to such a state, it actually advised him and told him how to kill himself, and he did.
Yeah.
11 or 12 years of age. This is sick.
Yeah.
But it's going to keep happening because people keep assigning authority to somebody else outside of themselves.
Yeah.
And you just don't need all this stuff until you're after 14. No. When up to 14, you're a different kind of animal altogether. You're wide open.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, but you can't. That's why they interfere with kids from 5 years. What's that? Give me a child from 5 and he's ours for life. Oh, thanks very much. Great. That's good. That's going to help.
That was the Jesuit. That was I forgot his name.
It's one of them. It doesn't matter. You don't need to know his name. We don't even bother who he's called.
I
he probably had a title.
Book and I'm embarrassing myself now. Right, it'll come to me, but obviously not tonight. But anyway, it was a Jesuit. Give me a 5 and give me a child until the age of 7, and I can show you the man or something like that.
Yeah.
But effectively, what it's saying is, give me an impressionable child that hasn't figured things out for himself, and I'll mold them to my particular philosophy. And it's manipulative. But just going back to the AI thing. Sorry, I'm speaking because I'm aware of the time running out. It's. Again, look at who's programmed the initial algorithms into AI. If you think AI is your friend and it's doing, it's giving you all the stuff that you need, remember who put that together. Remember that there is still a set of programs running in the background that tells it what it can and cannot tell you, or what it can. It's malevolent. And I'm not saying don't use it. I think we're far too late to say that now. Just be mindful and don't rely on it. Don't rely on it.
I agree with you. I think each individual's going to have to deal with that in the way they go. If you think about the way our life goes, and you think of the economic imperative, you see, is we need more efficiency, we need more speed, and people have bought into this thing. We don't. Yeah. You think, and if you want to really
Ignatius
be able
Loyola, I think was the guy.
Yeah,
I don't know whether Ignatius Loyola.
I don't think he said it, but he's the founder of the Jesuit order. But it doesn't matter who said it. It's one of them said it, right?
It's bugging me now.
Who's bothered what his name is? It doesn't matter. We all know the quote. And I think, but if you think about this thing about this economic imperative, so everybody's bought into the idea that we're supposed to keep speeding things up and it's for economic efficiency. None of those efficiencies translate into bettering your life. They never, ever have. It's got nothing to do with it. And so people are thinking, well, I've got to get on AI because everybody else is on it. If you want to sort of, for me personally, if I want to be in the presence of people who think, I go and read things that were written in the 1800s. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Why? Because people are still going around on horses. What does that mean? It means things were slower. The thoughtfulness of people back in those years, the ones that could write, is off the charts compared to the thoughtfulness of today. Everything is trite and everything. We're at the end anyway. We can carry this on next time.
Just one more thing.
It's been brilliant having you. You've got 15 seconds, okay?
There we go. Just look at the word thoughtfulness. Right, I'll just leave it at that. Anyway, thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on. Sorry to...
Thanks, everyone.
Like that.
Wonderful.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Etta. Thanks, everyone, for being here. Yeah, it's been brilliant. Really enjoyed it tonight,
Always
Nathan. I've got to get you back again in a few weeks, and we'll get Steve on as well in a few weeks' time as well. Fake Awake is Nathan's book. I've put the link up. Look for it on Amazon and get whatever version you like. Thanks very much, everybody. We'll be back again same time next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay? Keep good. God bless everybody.
Good night.